let me send a link to my Discord so they know we're jumping. All right, we're still there. Awesome, good. I'm sure you saw the thumbnail. I've had an interesting week. I saw a video a couple days ago by Janovich. It's this video right here. TTS was right. Every so often I see a video on YouTube and it affects me, you know, because it means something. Anyways, this was an interesting video by a YouTube creator that has, you know, a couple 100,000 subscribers nearly. Pretty active channel, making lore videos and content for Warhammer. And Games Workshop is being intense with them, you know, is taking like legal action against this person because of art that they use and something or other. You know, it's obviously a strange and contentious thing when creators in the hobby space get like attacked by the companies that they're doing stuff with. I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. How's it going, Mirshan? So I've had some thoughts about my focus, like what I'm going to be trying to work on. And the thought I'm currently having is I want to keep making miniatures and terrain and stuff. And I would like to make things for sci-fi games for Warhammer. But right now, my friend is making a fantasy TTRPG. So I wanted to spend some more time working on fantasy terrain and fantasy miniatures to kind of build up for that thing. So tonight I'm going to work on some of my Age of Sigmar miniatures just to get them started painting. I haven't actually put any paint on these guys. Let me turn the lights on in here. It's a little bit messy at my desk because I've been in terrain mode, and when I get crazy into terrain mode, it's, you know, I kind of go all in. How's it going, Argus? What you been up to, man? All right, whoop. About to drop a bunch of stuff. I need to move terrain up here without dropping everything. There we go. All right, perfect. Okay, now I got some painting room. Let me get my phone plugged in. All right. There we go. So I think I want to start in on some of these guys. So these are miniatures from the Cursed City box. How's it going, Stella? Hello, Kayla. One of my favorites is actually this guy with the long gun, the sword on his back. I think I actually want to start with him. I have some thoughts to make him in like a gray trench coat with the wooden spears, a wooden colored gun. I think I might just go somewhat simple, a few different colors of gray for him. So I'm gonna pick out a couple different contrast paints. I finally got my painting area more organized. So a lot of ongoing projects up here on the top shelf, and then my favorite, the Citadel contrast paints at the moment. How's it going, Frank? How you been? All right, I don't need black yet. We'll take Apothecary Gray and let's see, Basilican Gray. Okay, it's called Apothecary White, but we all know that it's not white. It's a trick. All right, some brown. I want to get some kind of color to pop on this guy. You know, I want to put some green on him, like a forest green color. What do you think? So I'm thinking gray hat, blue trim on the hat, so that he stands out a little bit. Gray shoulder, green coat, brown leather gloves, brown leather boots. But I think I want to go with a green coat just so it pops a little more. How has your birthday been going, Frank? Yeah, it's a constant changing setup. I'm always, moving something around or changing something, trying to find furniture that works out. Let's see, one of the other things that I like to do is try and find some way to make something glow on the miniature. So I think I want to bring his hammer out with like a light blue or green glow, something magical. I'm gonna try one of these new AK fluorescents, a blue, and just in case, I'm gonna grab the Citadel fluorescent. And all right, so I have 3 different fluorescents, hopefully to bring that hammer out a little bit. Gonna need a light blue, so we're gonna go with the Frostheart blue for part of his hat. Let's see, I think I got too many paints here. Gray, black in case I need it, another gray, Cygor brown, skeleton horde, and I think a dark green, so maybe Mantis warrior green. Ooh, gray hat with purple trim. That's a cool idea. Hang on a second. I might even have, yes, I do have a fluorescent for purple. We'll try that. You said for trim. I don't need fluorescent for that. Regular purple. There we go. All right. Let's find a good brush. What you been working on, Argus? I rearranged my setup and everything collapsed. What? How did everything collapse? That's crazy. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's a good point. Green and purple do go well together. Yeah, I think we'll go purple on the trim of the hat there. I'm gonna bring this down a little bit so we can see the guy a bit better. There we go. And I need to get that cord to plug in properly. For whatever reason, like none of my lightning cable cords work on my phone. It's just like a natural degeneration that occurs. I don't know why. It's just the way they work. All right, I'm gonna start with this AK blue. I'm thinking I might use a wet palette this time. I haven't used a wet palette in a while because I've just been dry brushing so much stuff, but I might actually need to get the wet palette going. Yeah, I mentioned earlier on in the stream, I saw that video by, now I can't remember his name, Janovich. Anyways, the YouTube channel that's kind of focused on like Warhammer lore, and that video really bummed me out. Like I woke up a couple days ago, and I was still in bed, and I was just looking at YouTube. I was getting ready to get up and start my day, and that video popped up, and it was like, goodbye to Warhammer or whatever, TTS was right. I don't even know the whole history of the situation going on, but it sounds like Games Workshop is taking like legal action against their creator community. And the more I look into it, the more I find out that that's true. Like Games Workshop is very aggressive against their creator community. Like they have them like sign contracts and stuff, and they get real intense about, what you can say or what you can't say. And I don't know, it really bummed me out because I was just starting to get into Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. You can see up here, I'm trying to get into Necromunda because I think it's a cool skirmishy narrative game. And I think it's a game that my son and his friend could play together. We could have a great time just, telling narrative stories while also wargaming. And so I was all ready, like just starting to build Necromunda train and ready to just go in on it. And then I saw this thing from this guy's channel. I keep wanting to say Janovich, and I'm not sure if that's actually his channel's name, but I saw this video from Janovich, and the thing that occurred to me was like, this guy's got 200,000 subscribers, right? Like that's not a small channel. That's a pretty big sized channel, and if you're making like kind of dedicated arts and crafts, Warhammer stuff, telling stories and trying to get people interested in the product, like that's not a channel that Games Workshop should be attacking. You know, like that's a channel they should be supporting. And like, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of the Dungeons and Dragons situation, right? Because like you got Wizards of the Coast, and they are absolute jerks to their fan base, right? Like Games Workshop does not seem to care about their creator community. And I don't know, I was bummed because for a while I was kind of jumping into Warhammer and Games Workshop stuff, and I had this thought like, you know, I'm probably misjudging this. I even made a video a couple weeks ago, like, hey, is Warhammer is Warhammer like is it going to be the next Star Wars essentially? Is it going to be the next dead franchise? Because, you know, I was asking that question because I was kind of worried that I was seeing signs that might be true. I don't know. I don't know that it's going to become Star Wars. You know, obviously that's like a very specific thing that a company has to do to like turn into Star Wars. But either way, it bummed me out enough that I started rethinking all of my decisions. You know, like I'm in a totally empty headspace trying to figure out like, what am I doing now? What am I doing with my channel? What am I focusing on? Because I'm about to start building like Necromunda terrain and miniatures and like whole teams and armies. And one of the things in my mind is like, look, I got a good friend of mine who's making a really cool fantasy game system, you know, and he's trying to get it kickstarted. And I love his game system. I totally love it. It's my favorite tabletop RPG. Of all the TTRPGs I've ever played, it's the only one that I would consider a forever system, you know, and he's going to launch it in August. And the thought I had was like, look, I'm about to start building a bunch of sci-fi terrain and sci-fi miniatures. What am I doing, right? I can just hang on to this Necromunda stuff for now. It's not going anywhere. I'm still interested in making sci-fi crap. Let me just pile it up, put it away for now, and I want to try and work on fantasy stuff because I want to try and make... My friend's game has a war game version of it, right? He's got like rules and stuff for it. And I think it would really translate well into some kind of, you know, dungeon crawler type game to put up on a war game table, you know, like a player versus environment type game or player versus environment. So my new goal, and this is me being totally stupid and I know it, it's like I'm constantly changing directions. My new goal is to build a war game table with boats in these like kind of city stack hives. It's really hard for me to explain the thing, but I'm for the next few months, I'm kind of going to be going into fantasy. I've already looked at TT Combat, and TT Combat has some really cool like fantasy displays and like boats and like all these different things I can basically make out of MDF. And I'll probably still try and do like basing and painting and all that fancy stuff that I do. Let me see what y'all are saying because I've been rambling on for a minute. You like Luke Skywalker? You can't still like Luke Skywalker. You can't like Luke Skywalker after the alien breast milk, right? Like he's dead now. Like, right? It's not possible to like Luke Skywalker anymore because he's a character that has been like wholly eviscerated by the canon. You know, like, I mean, you could still say that, you know, he was a cool character, but you know, just to say that he's a good character still, I don't think I can cope that hard. In my mind, that canon with him drinking blue alien milk it's just real. You know, and I've really, okay, back to Warhammer 40K. I've really enjoyed learning the Warhammer 40K lore. Like, it's been very interesting going through the old Lutin videos and like just kind of collecting up on lore and knowledge. You know, I mean, I'm having fun building and painting these orcs. Like these things, this is one of the most fun builds that I've had. Just making this weird orc tank. I like it. I'm here for it. It's totally cool. So I don't know what to do with the fact that Games Workshop is kind of acting like Wizards of the Coast. It's a bummer, right? Like, I don't know what to do with that. But for me to pretend like it's for me to pretend like Games Workshop is being a good company, that's kind of I'm coping, right? Like, if I just put my head in the sand and go, no, they're like a totally chill company, right? It's just a bad week for them or something. I don't know. I'm a little worried about just kind of, putting my head down that much and pretending like that's not happening. All right, hang on a second. I got to get, where's my water cup? Where is my water cup? There's my water cup and water bottle over here. Like to keep these things near the painting section because I just use them all the time. And then I got to go fill them up downstairs every now and then. Let's see. Just give my brain a vision of playing Necromunda, but in the style of Galactic War from the original Star Wars Battlefront. That'd be pretty rad, actually. Let's see. Do I want 10K subs instantly? Trying to go back coherently. All right. I was talking about Star Wars. I mean, I was a big Star Wars fan, right? I was a Star Wars fan from like the time I was a kid into the early movies and even the prequels. I got in line, I went to the theater and lined up like all the rest of the nerds. I was into Force Awakens as much as you. Oh no, sorry. I was into the Phantom Menace as much as you can really be into Phantom Menace. Like, it's fine. It's fine. I don't hate Phantom Menace probably as much as a lot of other people do. I do think it's boring, but really Star Wars to me died when they just completely eviscerated Luke Skywalker's character in the Last Jedi movie. I don't know, just making him be such a whiny, sniveling wimp hanging out and hiding on a planet. That's just the end of that character. And I don't really know how to appreciate that character anymore and pretend like that's, oh yeah, no, that's totally cool. He's still a he's still a good representation of a Jedi in that world. No, it's really hard to still care about Luke Skywalker. And I'm not saying that Warhammer's doing the same thing. I don't know enough about the lore to tell people whether or not the lore is good or bad or any of that stuff. My thing is mostly just these big companies like Games Workshop and like Wizards of the Coast, they seem to take a really aggressive stance against their fan base in a way that's like, it's not just anti-consumer, it's kind of, I don't know, it's caustic. And it's strange that these big companies are doing this so recurrently over and over and over again. Question is, do you enjoy playing Games Workshop games? That is a really good question. I like Kill Team. I have a good time with Kill Team. Kill Team is currently the only game of Games Workshop that I've actually fielded and played so far. My plan was to finish out a 1,000-point army for Games Workshop for Warhammer 40K. I was building my Imperials. Here, I'll show you my Imperial building progress. Oh, I have several boxes or several groupings of Agents of the Imperium. I got the Grey Knights. These guys are they're just primed. I haven't actually painted them yet, but I got the Grey Knights and all these different Inquisitors, a couple tanks. So, I'm ready to go with close to 1,000 points to just start playing games. I'd probably like to paint them first, but when I saw that video by, I keep thinking I'm saying his name wrong, but whatever, by Janovich, it really bothered me. You know, like it bothered me enough that I was thinking about it for a whole day, going like, I don't know, what am I doing? You know, I could be this guy Janovich, right? I could put my entire time and energy into making content about this game that I like and that I love, and have the company that is making this game that I like and love weaponize their legal system against me and turn them like basically they could turn their lawyers on me while I'm trying to be supportive of their product. I don't know, that's weird. And I just got thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know why I'm not leaning heavily into fantasy to support my friend's game. I love the tabletop RPG that my friend is making. I love like so much of the lore and the connectivity, you know. And I think my only hang up really was that it's fantasy, and I'm kind of a sci-fi guy. I don't know. I know it's silly, but I'm more sci-fi oriented than I am fantasy. And for me, I think it's probably just because I didn't grow up with fantasy. Like I didn't grow up with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I grew up with like Star Wars and Star Trek, and so that was kind of like my introduction to fantastical fiction stories. My brother likes Star Wars a lot. Yeah, I mean, I used to like Star Wars a lot. I think it's mostly the Disney Star Wars that really broke me of liking Star Wars a lot. You know, like it was. Star Wars was very cool for a long time, and then once Disney started making Star Wars stuff, it became very uncool quickly. And not because like it became mainstream. I think that's a side effect. I think the reason it became uncool is because it was being put together by people who didn't love it or care about it. You know, and it's like you got some corporation that's trying to figure out what the best way to represent these characters are, and like they don't even fully understand the characters to the point where like they're erasing the old canon. I mean, honestly, that should have been the point, that all the Star Wars fans were just like, oh, okay, this isn't really Star Wars then. You're going to get rid of all the canon? That's crazy. I like that green, but I want it to be a little darker, so I'm probably going to add some dry brushing in to darken it up a bit. Dry brushing is, I think, my go-to for painting. May the force be with you. Thank you. I love the idea of what Star Wars once was. Now it's kind of mush. Yeah, and I think some of the problem is they've dismantled all the connectivity of Star Wars and made it like a whole bunch of like, and then. You know, and it's like there's not really a lot of stuff that happens and then stuff that happens because that stuff happens. Like it's all a bunch of disconnected things that it's really hard to, I don't know, it's really hard to get enmeshed in it or to care about it at all. All right, let me go change this up and get some brown. Where's my cloth? I need my free cloth. I don't have a free cloth. All right. Rogue One and Andor I love. So what do you love about Rogue One and Andor? I did also like Rogue One when I first saw it. I do not currently like it. I'm not a big fan of I don't know, Rogue One was fine. It just doesn't have a lot of character. Like there's characters in it, but like they don't really matter. You know, it's like there's that one blind dude or whatever who like goes and he pushes a lever before he explodes. I don't know. It's not that interesting to me. It's like there's like some spectacle, right? There's really cool sequences. You know, there's like a big AT-AT and you know walking through a swamp or whatever. Like, oh, that's rad. It's not that interesting though. I think I'm going to go dark brown on the edge of the hat and then a light brown towards the back of the hat. Keep playing Kill Team. You don't have to be a fan of Ford's policies to enjoy driving a Mustang. No, you know what? I've thought about that, and no, you're absolutely right. I got my Mandrakes team. I'm going to keep trying to go out to the game store. You know, I want to get better with them. I want to learn how to play them. I dig on playing Kill Team. It's got a lot of complexity, and the complexity is very fun. It is difficult to like get big into it because there's so many like machinations and interconnected mechanics and stuff. So it's something I'm gonna have to play a lot to get better at. But I think that's also, I mean, I like that about Magic and other complex games. I think the complex games that I do enjoy, often it's like the intricacy of the connection that I like. So no, I'm gonna keep playing. You know, I'm not even in a position where I'm like, look, I'm gonna boycott Games Workshop. Like I don't I don't think I care enough to make antithetical content or whatever. Like I wouldn't really spend time and energy going like, you know, Wizards of the Coast is bad. They're just bad, and I don't really need to talk about it that much. I mean, I'll talk about it if it comes up or whatever. Okay, in this case, if I bring it up. But like I you know, I don't need to make like videos fussing about them really. It's more so that like I go, okay, all right, you know what? I don't think I want to really keep buying Dungeons and Dragons stuff because I don't really like the product. I don't like how the game plays. I'm not a big fan of it. All right, moving on, right? And that's kind of the end of it for me. Like I'd rather go find something good and then make content about that thing that really worked for me, that was good. And that's, I don't know, I would prefer being creative about stuff that I love as opposed to being creative about stuff that I hate. So the Games Workshop thing, yeah, I might still pick up their models and stuff. I think their models are cool. I love the look of the Imperial Agents. I love the look of the Hieratech guys. You know, they have a very unique vibe to Games Workshop models. I think they do a good job with them. So I'm not about to pretend like I hate their models. Nope, I don't. I just don't know how much time and energy I would want to spend focusing my attention making content for their games. You know, especially as I mentioned, my friend is releasing a game this August, and I want to do what I can to be supportive. I believe in this product so much. You know, I love this game so much. It's very important to me that it be successful. And if there's anything I can do to help it be successful, then, you know, I want to do that. And I think building some really radical terrain with like because that's one of the things is like fantasy terrain is often like stick a few houses around in a village and then put some castle walls. And you don't often get like fantasy terrain that has like a lot of verticality. And that's the thing I want to focus on is like building fantasy terrain that has just totally awesome verticality where like when you saw it, you'd go, I want to play there, right? And that's what I want to create. And in my friend's game, there is a location. There's like this place where it's like it's not a ship graveyard, but it's all these boats that are kind of docked and tied together, but they build like cities on top of them. And it just sounds rad. It's kind of like Venice, but with boats. And yeah, I want to build that location out in a map. So I'm going to focus some time and energy on that. Continuing over the summer, I'm picking up a bunch of MDF stuff to try and build out a complex modular terrain board that allows me to move it into different configurations. So your content so far is fair use. The act of painting itself is transformative. No, I agree. And you know but that's the thing. At some point, if I really get into Games Workshop and I really get into Warhammer, I would probably want to start making lore videos, right? Like lore about something, lore about characters that I'm playing in their games or something. And if Games Workshop is allowed to just attack their creators, and you know, that's the thing, it's like, obviously they're allowed to, it's just a matter of whether or not they have the spirit to do that. And that seems to be the case. Like once Games Workshop determines, yeah, we're going to turn on the people who are creating content for us, that's a weird slippery slope. You know, and I've seen it enough times with enough creators who create stuff for Games Workshop games that I go, ooh, that's weird, right? Like, it's just, that's, I don't know what to do with that. Games Workshop, why are you doing that? All right, I like that light brown on the hat, and just want to get it to merge a little bit more. My goal is to get it, kind of a color that pops, like just make it like bright enough. I want to get it bright enough that I can put a wash on it afterwards, because I like to build guys so they're like ready to game. I don't want to spend 6 hours on one miniature. My son does that. I watch him do it. It looks miserable to me. I don't want to be spending 6 hours on one guy. I would rather field a whole kill team in that amount of time. All right. Games Workshop really makes that a difficult line to adhere. Yeah, and that's, I agree, Argus. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, when you look at some of the companies that you're interested in the products of, sometimes you can tell like the spirit of that company, like how they organize themselves behind the scenes. Here, for example, like Blizzard. I was big into Blizzard for a long time. Like, I really loved World of Warcraft. I loved Hearthstone. I was kind of into StarCraft. But when that stuff started coming out about Blizzard and like the sexual harassment at their company, I don't know if all that's true. But I had a buddy who worked for Activision, and he lived his life as though that Blizzard stuff was true. Like, he had a work girlfriend, like he had a 2-year relationship with a work girlfriend. He was a married guy too, right? Like, anyways, that pub crawl, no, not pub crawl, cubicle crawl. When all that stuff came out, I was kind of just like, I don't care for Blizzard, I don't care about their products. Like, they're just kind of dead to me. And, Disney did that with Star Wars when they made Star Wars all kind of like weird and political, and, Admiral Holdo with her purple hair and stuff. It's like, it's just, all right, this is not a serious company anymore. I don't know how to take their products seriously. Hold on, I'm painting brown in the wrong spot. Really need to get my towel back over here. Anyways, I'm seeing some kind of writing on the wall with Games Workshop. I don't know exactly what that writing on the wall is, but it worries me enough that I'm like, even if I make all this Necromunda and 40K stuff, like, I don't know, maybe I just use the one-page rule set just to kind of avoid Games Workshop. I don't know. I've had this thought, and I think it's just been on and off in my head. It's not like a paranoia or something. It's just something telling me, hey, you're about to spend a considerable amount of time and energy making content about a product line that doesn't appreciate the community of creators that supports it. Be careful. And I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to be careful. Something happened to 40K at 8th edition when they finally started using tournament rankings to balance factions. West Coast pairings, IIRC. I don't know what that is, Nate. Before then, top players would need to try different factions themselves, then buy meta-breaking models, etc. After publicly available win rates became a thing, whales could just buy top teams. Then 40K capitalized on this by, oh man, you got like a whole bunch for me. Hang on. By changing the meta with updates every few months, enough time for their top paying customers to buy the new winnings faction, repeat like the seasons now. Okay, I get what you mean, and I've seen that. So I didn't know that Games Workshop was doing that, so I can't say that I knew that. But I saw, when I was playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, I saw that Atomic Mass Games was doing that, and it really upset me. Because they'd come out with a new Thanos figure or Apocalypse or whatever, right? And Thanos or Apocalypse would come out and they'd be totally baller. You know, like Apocalypse's team was just punishing. You know, Thanos' team was punishing. They'd be, you know, totally high-ranked characters. People would buy them. People would field them. And then a couple months later, they would just gank them, right? They'd be like, you'd see Apocalypse go from like S tier or A tier, boom, down to D, right? And people are like, you know. And when I noticed, I noticed this most when my son was trying to get Malekith, right? Like he bought Malekith, he started building Malekith, he was going to paint Malekith, and then he went and looked and saw like an updated version of Malekith, and he was like, oh, never mind, like not going to finish painting him. And that pissed me off, you know, because like my son spent his own money buying a Malekith model, and then he got so bummed about the stat line that they changed it to that he was like, yeah, who cares? So, yeah, that is a reason as well. Like just companies doing this. So I didn't know that Games Workshop was doing that, but that doesn't really surprise me, you know. Yeah. You know, okay, for me, it's one of those things where I'm like, it's just another example where I feel foolish. And part of the reason why I feel foolish about this is because I keep doing this. You know, I could take you through my house right now, and I could just show you about a dozen different product lines where I started getting the thing, and I noticed like, oh, my son is playing a game with me. Oh, my wife is playing this game with me. You know, my son and my wife were playing Marvel Champions together. Cool, get all the cards. You know, and then a couple months go by, and I'm like, dang, this game's actually not good. And like it's not well made. It doesn't have good cooperative functions. Crap. You know? And some of it is like I'm really desperate, maybe like in a nostalgic way, to try and find like that game that you can connect with your family with. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard to find that game because like there's so many little like board games and stuff, and you get them, you play them 2 or 3 times, and then no one wants to play them again because there's no like longevity in the game. And there's lots and lots of games that have that. But the thought I had was like, hey, these miniature games have lots of longevity because, I mean, you know, you got to like build and paint the miniatures and stuff. And that's, you know, that's fun. That's artistic and crafting. So, you know, I've been leaning into that, but I keep making, you know, stupid mistakes. I keep making dumb failures, thinking that, you know, this game or that game is going to be the solution to, you know, my problems connecting with my son and connecting with his friends, because it's in my experience, it's been really difficult connecting with a teenage boy. It's been really difficult connecting with my son since he was about 11 or 12. You know, I don't know if it's because he's got some autistic tendencies. You know, both of my sons are like, they got some kind of autisms or something. And my younger son is very difficult to connect with. My older son is easier, but it's still tough. And it's something where like I am constantly having to work for it all the time. And, you know, so the moment I go, oh, wow, he's painting a Tyrannid. Get some more Tyranids, right? Which, you know, I guess it's an impulse problem on my part. All right, I like how that's coming about. I'm going to get my stippling brush and bring in that green a little bit more. I want to try out, don't think I want this actual color, but I think this will give me a nice residual green so I can wash over it and have it kind of pop like a green leather. All right, let's see, let me catch up. Andor Season 1 had incredible pacing, character motivations, dialogue. Season 2 feels different but has amazing tension. Is less than Season 1, I think. May just have to watch Season 1 again. So, I just don't know if I care about the character, what's his name, Cassian? I don't know if I care about him, right? Like, the first time I see Caspian, or Cassian, whatever his name is, first time I see him, he's kind of hanging out in that, the Rogue One movie, and he's kind of a bad guy, right? He shoots that dude, like in cold blood, because he's like a spy. And so he's a gray character. I'm not saying I don't like gray characters. Han Solo is also a gray character. But Cassian is never, like, redeemed for me. He's just kind of a morally gray guy who happens to get like he goes on a mission that he dies in. But I don't know that I care about him. So I don't know why I would watch a show about him for Andor. Like, he was in one movie, and he was one of the least interesting parts of that movie. The girl was the other least interesting part. I don't know. Like, none of the characters in Rogue One were very interesting. So I just don't know why I would watch more. Here's the thing. Star Wars is just dead. Disney Star Wars especially. I don't know how to resurrect it for myself. And I'm not even sure that I should try. I got other stuff to pay attention to, and Disney had its chance. Actually, I think I'm going to mix these two together a little bit, and I'm going to dry brush stipple them on. I'm going to get a little dab of this war paint Fanatic one. I have liked some of the weird war paints, like the Fanatic ones that come out. I haven't gone all in on the Fanatics because I still like Vallejo and I still like the Citadel contrast paints. So far, the one or two colors I've used for the AK paints have been very satisfying. Yeah, they've been pretty quality. I've been happy with them so far. All right, I want a little dry brush. Here we go. So I'm just going to get this and dab it between both of them and then stipple around the edges here. Let's see. Talking to Chevron, Naya says, that really depends on how integral you find the fanon. Maybe that you mean fandom. I'm from before all the fan-produced stuff, so I find it really easy to focus on what happened at the shop and table. Let's see, this is very random, but I have a tortilla blanket. Sounds good. That's a set of good reasons to not play D&D. Yeah, I don't know. D&D was a big thing for my family together. Like, we were playing it for quite a while. I played it a lot when I was younger. I played it with friends in college, and when I was just starting to like work professionally, and I really enjoyed D&D for a long time. So when my son started getting into D&D, I was like, sweet, and I went and I got a bunch of the books and picked up the spell cards. I really wanted to make it work, and that was actually like one of the first big foolish dive-ins that I did, where I just went like, I found something that my family can connect with. Let's get all of it, And it's one of those, boom. I am stupid, and I have to just remember that I am stupid, which is why like I have spent a lot of time thinking about my friend's game, and it's like, okay, am I about to start diving in his game in another dumb way that I dive into other stuff? And to me, no. The answer is no, because I really believe in the product, and I know the guy who's making it, and I know he has integrity. Like, I know him as a friend, and that's a big thing. Like, that's a big thing, knowing the person who's making the game and product, and knowing that they're honest and that they have like the community in mind. So I'm far less worried about some sort of betrayal down the line. All right, I'm going to end up getting this a little bit messy while I try and get in some of these cracks back here. So we're going to get green everywhere. I don't want it, but I'm going to have to go over the top later on. Just really want this coat to pop with a bright green. There we go. All right, that's coming in a bit more. Let me see. Let's put this over this way. There we go. Whoops. There we go. Now I can see better. All right. Is that an Inquisitor or a Fantasy Witch Hunter? So this is a Fantasy Witch Hunter. This guy is from the Cursed City board game. I'm pretty sure Games Workshop just calls it a board game. It's not part of a line, but I know they do have a continuing line of products for this. I mostly got this board game because I wanted the 76 different miniatures in that box. I do like cooperative dungeon crawling games. But these guys are just, I don't know, they're just really cool. I have the desire to paint them. I'm against hair crimes. Is that right, Frank? Star Wars died for me when they invented Jar Jar Binks. Okay, that is totally fair. Misa, Misa, totally. Yeah, no, I get it. He was an obnoxious, just a totally obnoxious character. I don't actually even know anyone who has a kid whose kid like Jar Jar Binks, you know? Like, I know that George Lucas made Jar Jar Binks because he was like, yeah, it's going to be for the kids, right? The kids are going to love this Jar Jar Binks character. And as far as I know, like, there's no human who has a kid that's like, yeah, Jar Jar Binks is my favorite character. I don't think it exists. I don't think it's a real thing. So I am also not a fan of Jar Jar Binks. All right, I have gotten all of the coat to the degree that I want to. So now I'm going to start getting some of those back details. He's got a bunch of straps and bags along with that sword. It looks like the sword, it looks like it, it doesn't actually have a metal. Like, you're not seeing the metal of the sword. So that's like a sheath that the sword is in. I think I'm going to make that a black sword sheath. And yeah, I'm going to go dark brown on his gloves and on his belts. I probably am going to go gray on his armor piece because he's got like an armor collar coming up there. I think I'm going to go like a basilica gray on that. And then brown on a bunch of the leather going around. I see. Jar Jar was secretly a Sith. I have seen that, and that is an awesome fan theory. I love it. I remember Robot Chicken also made a joke about that one, where it's like Palpatine calls Jar Jar to apologize. I don't know which thing happened first. Like, I don't know if Robot Chicken did that first or if that was a fan theory. But I love that. I love that idea of Jar Jar Binks being like the secret, ultra Sith behind all this stuff. Such a funny idea. I put that up there with like Mass Effect indoctrination idea, right? Like that was like one of those fan ideas that I'm like, oh, such a good fan idea. The developer should have leaned in and said, yes, it's true. Cassian does grow pretty well, I think, from just desperate and selfish into a passionate professional spy for a rebellion. But I tried watching it like it wasn't quite a Star Wars piece. That's interesting. I understand what you mean, but I don't know, like, okay, so why would you try to watch Andor as though it wasn't a Star Wars piece? Like, what's the benefit of doing that? Like, okay, what do you watch it as though it is? Like, it's not a Judge Dredd piece. It's not a Star Trek piece. So, like, what do you just watch it as though, like, Andor is just Andor? Like, it's just its own thing and it's not related to Star Wars at all? And if that's the case, hey, maybe you're doing it right, because I suspect that some of the stuff that Disney is making, they kind of just wish they could use the name Star Wars while also not being Star Wars. Like, they want you to come click on the thing because it says Star Wars, but they also don't want you to be a fan of Star Wars because they aren't fans of Star Wars. So I think that's probably the main reason why I just don't give a crap about Star Wars, like Disney Star Wars especially. Like, I don't know, like, it's being made by people who hate the stuff, right? Like, I don't know. I can't imagine how Disney could make a good Star Wars thing because I don't think they like Star Wars. All right. I said I was done with the green, and then I went back and did some more green on it. Also, Season 2 has amazing cinematography, absolutely stunning, and physically effective at times. I do like a good cinematography piece. I am a fan of companies and directors putting like quality into their cinema. I think that's choice. But I don't think cinematography like brings up the whole thing. Like, you can have a really, really good cinematography piece, like something that's going to win Academy Awards, but it needs to have story. I'm kind of a, like, in the way I view cinema, I see emotion and story being like the top things. So like if I were editing or creating a film or something, the chief thing would be what the story is that's being told. And the rhythm and pacing would probably be secondary. Like, those would be very, very important to me. All right, I'm going to try and bring that purple in onto his hat now that I've got his hat kind of finished here. I'll get a little more dark in some of the recesses. I know that the earth and wash will probably handle a lot of that, but all right, now this purple I'm putting in, I was going to use a contrast paint. I still think I'm going to. You know what? I'm going to. Going to lean into it. I like easy. Contrast paint is easy. Might want to add a hint of highlighter yellow to your green to get it to pop. Never mind. You Stipple did a great job. Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, I like that though. Yeah, the bringing yellow into it's good. What I'm gonna do is probably bring a little bit more of a yellowish tint, or maybe a bright green, into some of the bottom edges, like the highest edges, and then I'll drop a wash over the whole thing. I just want it to stand out well. I am probably going to have to take a darker brown over this glove where the green has come through, and same thing the shoulder. So, yeah, let's go do brown now. Let's see how much brown I'm going to need to put in here. I'll probably have to put a few layers. I'm going to start with the snake bite leather on the boots and on the shoulders, because I think snake bite leather is a considerable amount darker than the, what's the other one? The skeleton horde. Misa Bisa lightsaber. Yeah, Jar Jar was such an interesting choice. See, the neck piece part of the jacket, that's what a trench coat does when you're under the... Oh, so you think the neck part... Oh, you're probably right. That should be green as well. I thought it was part of the armor. So if you look real close, there's like a section here underneath that where there's like a leather belt going across. Anyways, it looks... I thought it was armor connected to the neck piece. Yeah, you're right. That's probably going to be... I need to make that green too. Well, I'm into brown right now, so I'm going to finish browning this. Let's get this shoulder in. Oh, that's covering up the green well. One of the main reasons I wanted to get these Cursed City models is because they'd be a really good stand-in for the tabletop RPG that we play. Like, they're not perfect. They don't line up exactly the way we need to in the fantasy that we're playing, but they're pretty close. And this, this could be like a luck gunner or a firebrand or something. Like, there'd be no problem me just putting this on the table and having it represent some sort of witch hunter in the game that we're playing. Sorry, Games Workshop might have that trademark. Maybe I can't say witch hunter. All right, I'm going to try and bring some of that pooling down a little bit. That's one of the things I really like about the contrast paints, is just how it falls into the recesses and pops out the depth. I don't know. I understand, like, if you're not a lazy painter, and I am a lazy painter. If you're like a patient painter, maybe that's stealing some of the craft from you. Because my son refuses. He refuses, like a Puritan or something. He's like, I shall not use contrast paints. I'm like, I don't get it. I do not understand why someone would refuse to use a contrast paint. They're so chill. I don't know. It just... And I'm not even like upset with how it looks afterwards. Like, there's some of the models where I painted them before I was using contrast paints, and I painted them and they just came out terrible, right? I spent hours and hours and hours and they still came out like meh. With the contrast paints one, a lot of the time they just look a lot better than the time and energy I spent on non-contrasts. Let's see. Andor is a good standalone thing. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels better. How do you, what? That's crazy. How do you feel better? How do you be Star Wars and then feel better than Star Wars? Like that's, I mean, okay, when you say feels better than Star Wars, you mean like it feels better than like Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and New Hope? Like, or you mean it feels better than like Disney Star Wars? Because that is an incredibly low bar. If you mean the second one, if you mean the first one, those are fighting words, Argus. Those are fighting words. I watched Andor detached, kind of like how I used to read expanded universe books. I recognize it's in the same universe and setting, but zero force of glitz. Okay, it's just characters and setting and tension, as Argus said. Okay, so I understand that. I get like that you can. I'm trying to think of another example of something that I could do that way. That's probably how I watch the Hobbit trilogy when I'm watching like Lord of the Rings. I'm sort of watching it devoid of Lord of the Rings. I don't know that, but that does seem to be like the wrong thing to do. You know, like Lord of the Rings is a very well-made film trilogy. It is so good. It's hard to it's hard to compare it to any other film trilogy because it just does such a great job and it stays to itself. You know, I understand people complaining about like the ending being too long and there's too many like fades to black. I don't think that's even like an unreasonable complaint. I can totally get that. But I will put up with the long ending because it's just such a wonderful getting there. But The Hobbit is to me very devoid of that Lord of the Rings thing. Like Gandalf doesn't feel like the Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. And Bilbo Baggins also does. Like none of the crossover characters feel like real characters. They don't feel connected in the world of like Lord of the Rings. It's like weird spin-off energy. Kind of like when Captain Picard goes on Deep Space Nine to sort of introduce Deep Space Nine. And it's like, I don't know, it's this sort of stilted and wedged in Captain Picard. I was never really happy with that opening for Cisco. I don't know. Deep Space Nine was probably one of my least favorite Star Treks. I even liked Voyager better. Now I don't really like any Star Trek. A friend of mine has ruined Star Trek for me. All right, let's see. If you want to cosplay that guy, the coat cape is an Outback duster. The coat/cape is an Outback duster with 2 buttons on the collar, so it makes that come in the front of your face. Okay, got it. The same as Vampire Hunter D. All right, cool. Thank you. That's actually helpful. Nate, have you considered what your own ideal skirmish game might be like, or parameters it would have, e.g., number of models per side, certain dice rules and movements, etc.? Nate, I am so glad you asked this question. Oh man, that's what a kind question to ask. Okay, I'm probably gonna ramble on about this for like a few minutes, which is why I washed my brush off. Okay, I love war games. I love this model making stuff. I love making the terrain. You know, it's like, to me, a war game is probably one of the most fun board games that you could play, right? But if you jump into something like Marvel Crisis Protocol or Kill Team, even Blackout, a lot of these war games are very complex. They got, 20 to 30 page rule books that you need to like consider all the rules together to understand the thing. I have seen some war game and skirmish games that are simple and easy to understand, but generally they're not very interesting and the level of play is not very deep. Like, kids aren't going to be psyched about winning or losing. It's just kind of like random luck. So I think Necromunda is probably one of the best war games I looked at for new players, because it starts you off with like 10 guys. That's 10. Starts you off with 10 guys, and 2 or 3 of them are complicated, and the other 7 guys are just basically, they're just lame, right? They don't have any abilities. They can shoot. They never hit, and they might survive the match, right? So that means a new player really only has to memorize, not even memorize, they just have to like look at the card of like 3 different guys, make them do stuff, and then the rest of the team just kind of gets through with basic, they're like little zombicide people. Like they just take 2 actions and their turn is over. So that's a really good war game to start someone out in. Obviously, there's a lot of complexity in the rules, and that was one of the areas where I was like, ooh, darn, right? I want to teach my friend Steven how to play a war game, and he's not like a complex gamer. He struggles with Magic the Gathering. I want to teach my son's friend Gabriel a war game, right? And my goal, like my ultimate goal, is to like get Bishop and his friend Landon and Gabriel and myself and maybe even one other person all playing a skirmish game together at the same time. Like that's just, to me, that's peak gaming. And in my mind, Necromunda might be able to do that. There's a narrative aspect of Necromunda where the story is told over the campaign session. And I think that's a really good way to do a war game because when you finish the match, you're not done, right? You take your miniatures and some of them level up, or you spend points to buy things for them to get them like more experience or something. And now they're better for the next match, and that creates a story. And then like 4 sessions later, that guy that you leveled up into like a gunner or something, he dies, and that's a bummer, but that's also a story. And I think that's a really good way to play a war game, which is why I was super interested in Necromunda. And I was, going as all in as I go into a lot of things, because in my mind, I'm like, Necromunda is the way to get people into Kill Team, because in Kill Team, you really need to go with like those elite teams, those 6-unit teams, to give a new player. And even then, they're still complex because they have their faction rules, they have their equipment rules, they have their ploys, and they have their firefight rules. And you can just go and take out the strategic ploys and the firefight ploys, but then the game is very simple and the person is not really getting to experience what the game is. So, I don't know, I thought the solution might be Necromunda. But every time I thought about my friend Rodney's game, the TTRPG we play, it has a very crunchy combat mechanic, and it would translate very well to a war game. And it's very easy for a new player to understand how the dice work. My wife is she's very not good at complex games. And when I was first explaining the rules to the tabletop RPG, she was going like, "What? I don't understand," right? And I was like, "Don't worry, just try it twice and you'll get it," right? And she was like, she even had a thought. She told me afterwards. She's like, "When you said I was just going to understand it, I thought there's no chance I'm going to understand it." And at the end of the night, she was like, "Oh yeah, no big deal. This is totally easy." So I think the system that my friend Rodney has implemented into his tabletop RPG that translates well to a war game is probably going to be easier for players to understand. And I think making a skirmish war game out of his system is probably my best bet to get my friends like Steven and Gabriel into it. That's all of my thoughts on that. I think model count, probably like 3 to 4 units to start out with. And they have like basic abilities and stuff. But, I would just let the players kind of build their own war bands. I think that's part of the fun of them. All right, let me get on to this guy's boots. I got to brighten his glove up a little bit. Otherwise, I actually like how the glove is looking. I need to get his other glove. I'm actually going to bring his the coat, whatever you call it, the turtleneck back into green. All right, let's see. Star Trek Picard to Lower Decks. I never saw... Oh, let's see. Now, if you mean... Okay, so if you're talking Star Trek Picard to Lower Deck... Hold on. I'm trying to see what that was related to. I never watched Star Trek Picard because I just won't. I won't let them do that. I loved Picard. He was one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek. Him and Data were cool. And I am not about to let CBS tell me that they were lovers. That's stupid. I won't do it. I won't watch it. I won't pay any attention to that crap. They were good friends. There's no reason to make them gay. That is horrible. That is so bad to do to just a normal male friendship. just to go, oh, it was a weird sexual friendship. Not that, you know. I don't like it, and I don't care about the storylines that, like, all the stories want to do, like, oh, look, it's the girl who's the key to everything. She's got the secret code or something. I'm just like, I'm so bored of that story. You know, like I'm fine with I'm fine with interesting female characters. I love interesting female characters. I love Sarah Connor. You know, I could think of a bunch of examples of female characters that I like, that are interesting and well developed. You know, and I just the Hollywood's version of an interesting female character is basically a dude with boobs, and it's so boring. You know, it's not even worth paying attention to. So no, I won't watch Star Trek Picard. And the Lower Decks looks foolish. Like, it just looks like, what if Star Trek was stupid? I know people have said it's funny and they like it, and I just don't think their opinions matter. I know, kind of contentious, but I don't know, it doesn't feel like Star Wars to me, or Star Trek to me. Feels better than Disney's Star Wars. Nothing can come close to the Empire or the rest of the old trilogy. It doesn't feel like swashbuckling fantasy. Okay, so it doesn't feel like Star Wars at all. I got it. Picard was okay, but it wasn't proper Trek. Lower Decks felt like the glory days of... Really? Wait. No way. The Lower Decks... Okay, I've seen clips of the Lower Decks where an alien is just jumping on a dude's balls over and over and over again. That can't be... That's crazy. There's no way that Lower Decks feels like glory days of Star Trek. But it feels even better than the vibes of modern Star Wars. Even modern Star Wars does it best. Okay. I have complicated feelings about Amazon buying or leasing an IP and then doing a reinterpretation of the actual thing. Yeah, no, I'm worried about that too. And that's why, you know, Warhammer being picked up by Amazon is like, uh-oh, you know, because they kind of just did that. And I did not watch The Rings of Power. I do not plan on watching The Rings of Power. It looks terrible. I don't know. In the case of, like, The Rings of Power, I am fine with just listening to a few reviewers rail it. I don't want to spend 5 or 6 or 10 hours watching a Lord of the Rings show that was designed by people who hate Lord of the Rings. You stealing my clippers?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to make some of my Tyranids.
Go for it, man. Enjoy. We're going to watch some more Walking Dead tonight?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
I found everything we need to get for an airbrush.
You just put it in a cart. I'm not buying any airbrushes yet. I told you, you work on it yourself. But don't distract me with it right now. He wants an airbrush. He wants an airbrush, and now he's fixated on it. He's just like me. He does this fixated on things. I suck. He sucks. I'm bad at this. All right. Trying to find the last. Now that you've explained that the neck is part of his coat, not part of his armor, I'm finding a few other spots that will also be coat, and I'm having to get those real quick. There we go. Right above his little stakes. There's a little spot of coat there. All right. I really like Mando season 1 and 2. Is Mando a Mandalorian? Right. I mean, it was fine until they started forcing it into larger plots and using it success as a tool to build the legitimacy of other failures. Yeah. Mando being in the Book of Boba Fett was like that's so I didn't really care about Mando. You know, the little Yoda, baby Yoda was cute, but it didn't really have a character. And then the story of Mando just became like, hey, we got to go down to this planet to do a thing. Hey, we got to go down to this planet to do a thing. Hey, it was that over and over and over again. What you're looming?
No,
what do you want?
Remember you stole my my X-Acto knife and my other stuff?
Here is an X-Acto knife you may use.
There. And then I think you took another tool. Oh, my magnet and my file.
Can you not point that at me? Okay,
yes,
go. Get out of here.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Mando season 1 and 2 were fine, but they weren't good. I wouldn't call them like quality Star Wars stories. I don't think I hate them, but I certainly would never watch them again. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of this same mix of the Fanatic and the AK and just dust it into his turtleneck. There we go. It's going to be very difficult for me to get his face with all this turtleneck in front of it. I have not started trying to get good at painting and then building. I'm sure there's people who do that type of thing, even with like, these small miniatures. I've seen like Artist Opus do that, where they take a piece apart and like, they have it in like 5 pieces and they paint it individually and then put it together. The problem I've had is every time I try and paint something and then glue it, like the glue melts all over the thing. and by the end of it, it's like, well, now that's kind of ruined. That paint job it didn't stay at all, and the glue just melted it. Crap. All right. My water is getting sloggier. All right, see. What was all that? Data, Picard are gay. Was your rant about Picard crushing on Wesley, a half-brother? Wait, Picard and Crusher giving Wesley a half-brother. Not sure what you're talking about. Yes, there were big implications in the Picard show that there was some sort of romantic relationship between Picard and Data. If it wasn't directly stated, then it was significantly implied or to be inferred. I don't know, it's not... They were good friends. There's no reason to make them romantic. That's weird. All right. I think I'm done with the snakebite leather. Nope, got one more leather spot. See, Rings of Power would be a grade A fan fiction, but watching it has uncanny valley effect if you know the real thing. But if you don't know Lord of the Rings, it can be really great. I don't know. I still like the empty girl character who's kind of like a back-flipping girl boss. It's done. It's so over and uninteresting. I don't really understand being interested in it. I like interesting female characters. I don't really care for female characters that are just like men in women's bodies. That's a strange character, and there's so many of them, like Rey. There's so many of these new characters that come out, and it's like, oh look, it's a strong female character, but she doesn't have any depth. She has no 180-degree turn, right? Like the character starts out awesome, ends awesome. That's a weird film story. Maybe in other mediums that's fine, but film has always followed a pretty simple idea where when you show a character, it's a character that's going to be having some kind of growth. You have to have a 180-degree arc for that character. And not because of some formula, but because you're trying to give a reason for why the audience is watching this character in this particular time of their life. They're going to overcome something intense or tragic or something, right? And if you have a character that has no arc, it kind of feels like a waste of time watching them. I would have to agree with Argus. That is cope. Generally can't watch it. I have Lord of the Ring Illustrated Encyclopedia on my table. My brain wiped it. We pretty much... Okay, yeah, no, I got you. If I had no taste, this would be amazing. Right, no, I think that's my feeling with a lot of the modern stuff that's coming out. I don't know, it's been hard to be interested in the modern movies and writing. I've liked the Mission Impossible movies, but I also consider that they are strange movies because Tom Cruise's character is also a character that doesn't really have an arc. He's just a good guy. So when I watch his stories, I just, I understand I'm there for like the spectacle and the narrative. I enjoy the narrative. Got to save the world from the AI or whatever. But I wouldn't say that it's like a film with an arc. So I would understand someone going like, hey, I don't like the Mission Impossible movies. I'd be like, yeah, I get it. I like them, but that's probably because I'm a fan of Tom Cruise or something. All right, let's see. Got to start doing some touch-up work on all these belts, and I think I need to get his face next because it's gonna mess with me. Fair, true. Everyone hates Galadriel in the Rings of Power. Character feels like the CEO wrote it with a crayon. You know, I think the Hollywood problem is they're terrified of showing a woman that needs to grow. Right? So what they do is they betray all the women of the world and not show them real characters, right? Because you go look at like Rey, and Rey is a character that could have struggled, right? Like some of the stuff that she did could have been hard for her, and they could have made Rey a really interesting Star Wars character. But instead, they refused to have her ever need to learn anything from a man, because if she had to learn anything from a man, then she wouldn't be a girl boss. So that means she needs to like teach Han Solo how his ship works. That means Han Solo needs to be utterly retarded. And, you know, they end up cheapening all the characters around the girl boss character. And then the girl boss character, I mean, like, no one knows this character. No one recognizes this thing. I've never seen a human like Rey before, which means she doesn't resonate at any level. And the same thing with all the other girl boss characters. Like, I mean, it kind of works in a video game. You can make a video game story where there's no 180-degree turn. Because when a player plays the game, the progression track for the character can often be that 180-degree turn. So the narrative doesn't need one. But, you know, video games and movies are a different medium from each other. And I don't think you should make movies like video games. Although a lot of companies have tried to make video games like movies. It's okay when it happens. It's not spectacular video gaming, you know, like Uncharted. Uncharted is kind of like a movie. It's fine. I played it once. I will never play it again. It's not that fun climbing around this ledge to try and get into the library, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 times. It's just, you know, it's a game you play once and you're done. All right. I just don't know what it is that movies I just don't know what it is that moves people to excuse junk. Not targeting you, TSL frontman. I have other friends that do it really intensely, as though something in recent years has made writing harder. That's interesting, Argus. I've also noticed people celebrating junk, you know, but they do it in other areas too. You know, like tabletop games, board games, video games. I don't know. There is a lot of cope that goes on in these various industries. Right. I got to get his face next. Where are my skins? Let's see. I'm going to go with dark oak flesh. No, dark oath flesh. This one should put a nice tan on his face. The Tom Cruise character was already established in the television series. But Tom Cruise is not playing Mr. Phelps. Tom Cruise is playing Ethan Hunt. Mr. Phelps was the antagonist of the first movie. I think they just don't bother expanding Tom Cruise's character any more than they already have, because Tom Cruise's character is like a stand-in for an idea or something. I don't know, it's hard for me to put a finger on. Again, part of it is because I actually enjoy the Mission Impossible movies. Like, I enjoy them as heist films. I don't know. They're fun romps through adventure. But I don't think Tom Cruise has a character arc. Maybe Benji has a character arc. I'm not sure. Someone could argue that Tom Cruise's character has a character arc from the first film through like the 8th film, and I would accept that. but that's generally not what you do with movies. It's a weird way to portray film storytelling, or to manifest film storytelling. All right, we got the face. Let's go with the gray on the armor, because then I can start putting things over it. And I'm going to go with Basilica. There we go. Basilicum. Am I still saying that wrong? Basilicanum. Too many syllables in that word. Let's see. They're trying their best. We can't expect them to be great as the classics. No, I agree, Argus. It's weird that a lot of stuff has just gotten worse and worse and worse, and we're kind of all expected to just take it. I don't know if I can even remember the last time I played a video game where I was playing the game and I was like, wow, these mechanics are new, right? This mode of gameplay is totally different. Most games I'm playing now, I'm like, oh, I'm playing a knockoff of Slay the Spire, or I'm playing a knockoff of Mario or The Witcher or something, a knockoff of, like Mortal Shell. It's a knockoff of Dark Souls. There's so many games that are basically just like, hey, let's take that game that's popular and that game that's popular and steal two of the major mechanics from it and throw it into our game and see what happens. And that is like all the games now. I don't know. It makes playing video games pretty dull most of the time. Argus, I can definitely understand you going back to Skyrim, but I'm still going to judge you for it. I get it. There's older games where I'm like, I kind of would rather be playing an older game than playing something new. Like I'm even tempted back into things like Dark Forces, like super old. All right, I think, there we go. That is also part of his armor. Whoops, got a little bit of his coat there with that gray. All right. Try and get that gray off his coat. Both stars, see, Tolkien in every remake of the 1980s TV show. If you're an existing fan of the franchise, you'll hate it. I'm assuming you're talking about the Mission Impossible. I totally understand that. I was a big fan of the original TV show. If you're talking about Mission Impossible, I watched it with my grandparents, and I watched it with my parents. I feel like it was on Nick at Night for a while. I could be wrong. It is a totally different thing. So yeah, I would not say that I like Mission Impossible because it's a faithful adaptation of the TV series. It has become something wholly different. But that wholly different thing, I actually kind of enjoy. I say I actually kind of enjoy. No, I just enjoy it. It's fun movie watching. I probably enjoy it in the same way that some people would enjoy like a Fast and the Furious movie or something. Maybe there's some similarities in that. Now that I've got the gray on his armor, I think I'm actually going to take the gray into his leg plates as well. Because I'm realizing his boots are actually armored leg guards. So, yeah, I'm going to go gray into that. And then I'm going to dry brush over it some kind of silvering. All right. There's a bunch of miniatures that I've been looking at on Etsy because I want to get a whole line of miniatures for the war game version of the game that we're playing. And I don't want to just use Games Workshop models. For multiple reasons. I don't want my friend to get some kind of flack from Games Workshop if I'm using Games Workshop models and calling them, whatever, different names for my friend's game. And I don't know, it's just not worth the it's just not worth the chance that Games Workshop acts a fool. So I found a lot of really cool miniatures on Etsy. Anyways, it's interesting going and looking at the things that people are coming up with for 3D printing, because there are really intricate, detailed models that people are like, I don't know, they're like individual humans coming up with these designs, and selling like dozens and dozens of different like D&D and Pathfinder miniatures. It's a cool industry. Seems to be very competitive. If I had any knack for character design or 3D modeling, I probably would try and mess around with it, but those are not my artistic interests. All right, almost done with his leg plates. Let's see, Argus says either stick to the source and the spirit of the source or make something new and just as good. Why is that too much to ask? I totally agree, Argus. I think the problem is all these movies are so dang expensive. Companies are spending $200 million to put one of these movies out with all these special effects. And these studios are basically going to force themselves into a position soon where they're going to have AI creating the movies for them, rendering video and crap. Movies in the future are going to be so utterly meaningless. AI rendered, AI voiced, just totally devoid of character and life. I am concerned with whatever Hollywood becomes soon. I think that might be all the gray I want. So I'm going to put that away for now. All right. I think I want to make his bag a light gray on the back, maybe apothecary white. I don't think I want to make it dark. Yeah, since I'm actually not sure, I'm going to leave the bag for last. I'm about to, I'm going to get the boots. I'm going to get the boots in a darker leather, darker brown. Let me see, where's my Cygor brown? There we go. Yeah, and I think the reason why so many companies are just going with what exists already is because it's like, hey, it's safe to pitch this to investors, Hey, we already have an existing fan base. We want to make a sci-fi film. We're just gonna stick this name on it. It's gonna be nothing like it. We're gonna call it Indiana Jones, but Indiana Jones is gonna be a total punk the whole time. Yay! All right. All the motivations for bad decisions usually come down to because capitalism. I try to be more accepting of other people's bad standards, especially if it's entry-level stuff. Brett says, junk is subjective. Just because you don't like something doesn't make it objectively bad. Yeah, that's true, but something can be objectively bad and also be something that people don't like. I think the new Star Wars movies are objectively bad. I think it's actually provable that they're bad. And I think the way to prove that they're bad is by looking at the toy lines. Right? Like the Phantom Menace sold $2 billion of toys before the movie even came out. And the last Skywalker, the best Skywalker, what's the last one called? The Rise of Skywalker. I don't think they can even sell a Rey toy. You go to the toy store, you go to Target, and there's just stacks of Rey. And girl toys used to be like the most sold toys. People were buying Princess Amidala, Queen Amidala, right? She's not even an interesting character. And people just buy her because nerds buy girl toys. You know, if they make a Mara Jade toy for some kind of toy line or whatever, people are like, oh, it's Mara Jade, I gotta buy her, right? Guys love buying girl toys. I don't know what it is. You can't sell a Rey doll. Like, no one cares about Rey. And that is telling. And the same thing with like the rest of the crap characters no one cares about in the last Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker. I'm a Star Wars fan. It's not a good movie. It's not a good Star Wars movie. It's objectively bad. It is also subjectively bad. I think it's bad. But objectively, it's also bad. It's bad to bring back a villain that already died once before and come up with dumb reasons to bring them back. That's bad. I remember when DS9 was controversial because it wasn't a ship on a 5-year exploration mission. You know, that's good. That's an interesting point. I thought Deep Space Nine, like, it was a fine show. It was actually probably the most interconnected of all the shows. Voyager had a few episodes where it was like, hey, remember that thing that happened a few episodes ago? We're going to refer back to that. Deep Space Nine was heavily laden with that kind of storytelling, where it's like, hey, we're going to tell a story about going into the, whatever, was it the Gamma Quadrant? Delta Quadrant? I think it was the Gamma Quadrant. We're going to tell a story about going in the Delta Quadrant. I probably got it wrong. Whatever. And then we're going to continue that story for 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, and then we'll go tell a new story. I thought that was interesting. It was different. It was different than like Star Trek used to be. Yeah, that was fine. I just didn't really care for all the drama. It was like a soap opera a lot of the time. Like, basically any episode with Kira and the Prophets, that's a dead episode to me. That is a boring, like, it's just, the Bajor people and their prophets. It's so boring. And then Odo. You know, Odo and his people, boring. The O'Brien episodes are good. The Bashir episodes are generally pretty good. Worf episodes are solid. What's the Trill girl? Dax. Her episodes are fine until they change her. Then they're not fine anymore. I just didn't like all the drama of it. I don't know, there was a lot of drama. It was just very dramatic. And I think that some of that was being on a space station. I think they just ran out of stuff to tell stories about. Or at least that's what it felt like. See, Brett, most is it too much to expect internal internal consistency in characters that behave like real people and not just caricatures out of touch. Okay, writers. Okay, yeah, I get the question you're posing, Argus. It seems to be that it's very difficult for writers to write consistent characters and to write characters in such a way that people can understand their reasons and motives for doing things. Yeah, I think it's just lazy writers, or writers not understanding how to write stuff. I'm sure that's happening at the college level. You know, there's teachers or something that have just stopped trying to get their students to engage well. I don't know. For whatever reason, script writing has changed in the last odd years, and it seems to be very difficult to tell a coherent, consistent story with characters who make choices that you could understand as a viewer. There's so many movies that come out where I'm like, I just don't understand why these characters, like, there's one line of dialogue that would fix this whole problem right now. But because the writer has decided these characters are all stupid and they won't talk, like, now we have a story, which you know, that's boring. It sucks. It's like a culture we've accepted. No, you're right. This is some sort of like cultural cope, and we're here now, and it's just I don't think it's changing. You can get me a mod. See, I can get a mod for Dark Forces that makes it more playable. Can you really? All right, I'd be interested in that. Dark Forces is a pretty rad game. I started playing it, I don't know, like last year sometime. And yeah, it's pretty. It's like the parallaxing in the field of view is very daunting. All right, I'm going to go back to skeletal horde to get the inside of these boots, or the upper end of these boots. So got the let's see if we can get the light over here a little bit more. There we go. All right, to work on my lighting over here because it's all in the way now. Okay. At some point, I'll have to fix the streaming on my computer because my phone only does so well. All right, I'm going to bring up the brightness on his boots, or the shin guards, to get the metal look more there. But I want to get the rest of the under stuff first so that I can start washing afterwards. One of the reasons I like the contrast paints is just because I do not have super steady hands. And anytime I'm trying to paint these guys and get into like tiny little crevices, I always touch stuff with the brush I'm not supposed to touch. And so that, that makes my models look really bad. Somehow these contrast paints really make up for bad painting, and I am not great at painting. So these are definitely paints for me. These are great paints for bad painters. There we go. Washes too. Washes are amazing. See, that we've turned into a bunch of bitter old SOBs, and we're complaining like our grandparents did when TV quit being Happy Days and Leave It to Beaver. I mean, no, I get your point, right? Every generation seems to do this, so I'm not gonna gaslight you and be like, no, I'm not sounding just like my grandpa. No, I totally sound like my grandpa. I sound like my grandpa a lot earlier than my grandpa started sounding like my grandpa, though. Like, I'm in my 40s, and my grandpa was complaining about this stuff when he was like 60 or something. So I think it happened a lot sooner. Yeah, there is some of it where it's nostalgia, right? Some of it is nostalgia. You get used to something being a certain way. You get used to, video games being a certain way. Companies, hey, they used to make games and they'd sell you the whole game. When you bought it, you paid $40 and you got a game. Now they sell you a busted piece of crap and you gotta buy all the parts later. All right, some of that is nostalgia. Some of that is me remembering the ye old days of yore, when video games weren't sold to you in pieces. I don't know, but isn't that reasonable to be upset that a lot of companies are monetizing the crap out of their games? Like, what, just because Bethesda got away with horse armor 20 years ago, now we have like EA selling you all the pieces of the games back to you, selling you broken and disheveled crap and calling it complete? And now they're charging you like 80 or 90 bucks for a game. I think that's reasonable to complain about. I don't think it has anything to do with being an old SOB. I think, hey, no, they are making substandard products now. And I'm not going to be so retarded that I can't notice it. Like, I don't want to just be there like, oh, yay, clap and take the new garbage. No, these video games suck. The stuff that they're making and charging you $90 for, and then like they're giving you like this broken, busted thing that you got to buy a season pass for to get all the things unlocked. 30% of the development team is locked behind some kind of wall where all they're doing is like making armor and costumes that you don't have access to unless you have like 50 bucks to buy all the extra downloads. That's garbage. That sucks. I don't want any part of it, right? And if that's the new way that video games are going to exist in the future, I guess I'm just not going to play video games, right? And it's like, hey, that's fine. If I'm going to buy a game in pieces and I'm going to have to build it back together, I would rather it be a real game, right? I would rather go get magic cards. And I'm not going to say that those things aren't similar. Those things are similar, right? Warhammer is similar. But if I'm going to do that, I'd rather be doing some kind of arts and crafts while I'm doing it. I don't want to buy what should be a finished product, which is a video game, and then play something that I need to build. I don't care to do that. there are obviously some people who do like to do that. They used to play games like Fighter Maker and RPG Maker. There were a lot of people who were playing those games. They were big fans of like, I'm going to buy this game and I'm going to design my own RPG. And I was never a fan of that. I did not want to do that. I got Fighter Maker when I worked at GameStop. I think I checked it out for a week. I don't think I bought it, but man, I might have been stupid enough to have bought it. And I programmed like one character with a grab move, and then I had to get to the point where I programmed the opponent and how they get grabbed, and I was like, I'm done. I wanted to play Tekken, not build Tekken. All right, I think I want to take the wooden stakes, and I want to make them a dark brown, and the leather strap I'm going to make a light brown. I want them to be contrasted, though, so I want the light brown to stand out a bit. There's going to be a lot of touch-up stuff I have to do to kind of bring the details out on this guy. Because he's got so many details on, like, his belts and the buckles and, like, all the harnesses he's got everywhere. This guy is just coated in details. All right, this is the one I get to be messy with. Putting the leather strap on this thing be brown. When I get to the actual stakes, I'm going to have to be all careful. Let's see, but they weren't faced with remakes of Leave It to Beaver that made him into an emo kid that robbed liquor stores and portrayed him as... the fact that they're betraying the characters at the same time makes it even more poisonous that they're doing it. It's absolutely obnoxious that they're taking old characters and turning them into totally different characters. And the only reason that they're continuing to do it is because we have not rejected it enough wholeheartedly. Like, we have not just, we've watched. We go to the movie theater and we watch. And I don't know, maybe the more we don't watch, maybe they'll actually stop doing that. I don't know. It seems like Hollywood has enough time and energy that they don't really care if their movies make a profit anymore. And I think that actually, maybe there's a spiritual component there where the Hollywood studios are willing to take a loss so long as they can make a political message. So long as they can make a story about men being weak and pathetic and girls being girl bosses, that seems to be something that works for them. And they will continue to do it even when it loses them money. I don't mind West Side Story versus Romeo and Juliet. I'm okay with adaptations or reinterpretations of an old story. In fact, I generally like those type of things. It doesn't mean I'm going to like the new version better than the old version. I think what that is called is an homage. I'm okay with an homage. Spaceballs is an homage. I don't like Spaceballs. But I'm okay with Spaceballs existing. It's not my type of movie. See, 3D printing has really fleshed out its marketplace in all directions, especially for TTRPGs. Also, different resins are more approachable, allowing high definition that are nearly indestructible. So, Nate, what resins are really good for, like, malleability? Like, this miniature here has got little fiddly bits, but they're pretty malleable. Like, the plastic on this is durable. That it's like, it would take some work. I'd have to actually push pretty hard to get this to break off. And then the rest of all the bits on this guy are pretty good as well. Some of these guys can get a little bit fiddly, but there's still malleability. And when I tried printing miniatures myself with washable resins, the washable resin was absolutely abysmal. The water wash resin. The water washable resin was, it sucked. It was not good at all. All the bits that were fiddly snapped off of characters with hardly any effort. And that was a bummer because, I did not want to have the ABS fumes in the house. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just not going to 3D print stuff. And that's why I don't 3D print stuff. But now that I'm looking on Etsy for some miniatures or a miniature line or something, it would be nice to find some that are made of a quality material that won't just get fiddly and break. I think we're getting older. We remember our older shows through rosier and rosier lenses. Well, okay, so Nuya, are there any shows or movies or franchises that you used to love that were really interesting to you, and you watched the latest iteration of it and it just didn't hit, right? Like, did you see the new Indiana Jones, the one with Phoebe Waller something Cates? Phoebe Waller Cates? I might be making that up. Phoebe Waller whatever. Have you seen that new Indiana Jones? Were you an Indiana Jones fan? And did you like the new one? Did you like the new Star Wars? I don't know. I liked the new Star Trek films when I first saw them. When I first saw the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, I was like, yeah, it's like Star Trek except Fast and the Furious. And I was fine with it, right? It was all spectacle and J.J. Abrams Flash and, a bunch of pomp and circumstance. It wasn't until the third movie came out. Like, again, I was fine with it with the Wrath of Khan, which was stupid, but I was fine with that movie. And it wasn't until the third one came out that I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now. I thought the action sequences were pretty radical in a lot of those movies, but once I went back and started thinking about it, there's this moment in the first movie where Spock throws a little temper tantrum and punches Kirk and screams and throws a fit and beams him down onto a planet. And then Kirk is beamed down onto the planet. He's chased by a monster the moment he gets onto the planet, and then he goes into a cave. And the cave he goes into is on this planet. It's a massive planet, right? The cave he goes into is a cave that Spock is hiding in, like the real Spock from the other universe, because he was also jettisoned down onto this planet. And so now the two of them are in the exact same cave, and that's retarded. That's really dumb writing. But I was pretty retarded, and I just didn't notice it at the time, right? I just went, oh, enjoy the thing as it's happening, right? I just didn't question it. Once I questioned it, I was like, why are they both in the same cave after Kirk ran away from a monster? Oh, this is terrible and then writing. This is a terrible story that doesn't make any sense. And, I don't know, there's a lot of the movies that are like that. I think the Hollywood studios rely on people being stupid and never asking questions about the stories they're watching. But the moment you ask any questions like, hey, why is this character doing this? Or why are they saying this? Or why are they fighting with all the other characters? Oh, okay, so that a conflict can happen. I don't know. It seems to be that Hollywood is a dying industry now. They're not making the profits that they need to be to sustain their industry. It's weird the amount of movies that just come out. No one watches them. They don't make a profit. They just keep making them. All right. I'm liking how the steaks are coming out. They're loud. Kind of pronounced there. I'll have to get a better light here. I'm gonna bring this closer in. There we go. And then readjust it. All right. Robot Jocks and Robot Warriors were great when I was 6. Yeah, no, fine. I don't think Robot Jocks is gonna live up. I was also a Robot Jocks fan when I was a kid. I think Pacific Rim might be better than Robot Jocks. Some new stuff is better than old stuff. I think the new Judge Dredd was better than the older Judge Dredd. I also wasn't really a big fan of the older Judge Dredd. Okay. Yeah, is your implication that modern stuff on the whole is just as good, but our attitudes blind us to it? Yeah, I don't think I buy it completely either, if that's what you're implying. But see, bring back a dead villain, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, yeah. See, implication. Our old greats weren't as great as we remember them. Okay, there is fairness to that to some degree, right? I remember a moment with my dad where he like was like, we're ready to sit down and watch a movie, and he's like, "You guys are gonna love Tango and Cash." such a funny story. You know, it's like because he was super positive that Tango and Cash was a really solid movie, right? And so like we started watching it, and we got about halfway through, and my dad was just like checked out. I think he might have even fallen asleep for part of it. You know, but he was so disappointed that the movie didn't live up to his memory. But just because some movies don't like hold the test of time doesn't mean that there aren't movies that do stand up to time. Right? Like I think that North by Northwest is still an excellent film, and I don't think there's anything that anyone could ever do to convince me it's not. I think it's a really good mystery story. I think Hitchcock did that with like most of his films. He created like really interesting mysteries that, you know, you're trying to figure out what these characters are doing or why they're doing what they're doing. You know, and you as a viewer watching this movie are on like a mystery ride. You know, let me see. Yeah, I like Rear Window, and I'm trying to remember the name of the one with Carlotta Valdez, the girl. Hold on. Dang it. I can't remember the name of that one where it's in San Francisco. Anyways, I liked a lot of Hitchcock films, and I think that they stand up. I think that Terminator 2 stands up. You know, I'm going to have to watch Terminator 2 again because my son wants to see it. And I'm like, yeah, it's about time to watch Terminator 1 and 2 with him. I'm fairly certain that Terminator 1 will be a little bit of a, like maybe a little bit of a slog. It might be a little bit slow. But I have in my head that Terminator 2 is an excellent movie. And I would be genuinely surprised if I got into the film and I was like, bummer, this wasn't as good as I remembered it being. Well, something you said about Cisco in the first episode, it might be because Avery Brooks is a friggin' weird dude, very eccentric. So I didn't like Avery Brooks as Captain Cisco. I never connected with Avery Brooks because he's a totally weird actor. He portrays Captain Cisco strangely. And I don't know if that was the intention of Phil... Crap, I can't remember the guy, whoever took over after Roddenberry. I don't know if that was the dude's intention, if that was Phil's intention to do that, to like, hey, yeah, we want Cisco to be kind of a weird guy and be totally unhinged. And, you know, I mean, like the story had him being kind of this strange emissary to the Bajor prophets, which is already like in mysticism, like it's just layered in mysticism. But yeah, okay, so he gets kind of his own version of Q. In this story with like the Prophets characters. I don't think the Prophets are nearly as interesting as Q, and most of their episodes are dreadful, like they're hard to get through. But I think the problem was Cisco, like Avery Brooks portrayed him like he's always like, why? What are we going to do now? And I'm just like, dude, you're way over the top. This is not theater. This is TV, right? Bring it down. You're at like a 14. We need you at an 8. And he was just so intense. I hate the modern remakes without fail, but I am an 80s fan. Some of them, I have to admit, are made for a modern audience, not me. Some really terrible remakes out there, okay? Video games used to come with instruction manuals. I mean, okay, yeah, they used to have like guides and stuff, but the instruction manuals, like if you got a PS1, if you got a PS2 or PS1 game, yeah, it had like a little booklet that kind of told you how to play the game, but I don't remember reading one of them. Like I don't think like Metal Gear Solid. I don't think I read the instruction manual. I don't even know if I pulled it out of the case, right? Resident Evil, you just put the disc in, it goes, PlayStation, right? And then like you're playing, right? You don't read the Resident Evil instruction manual. Who does that? Yeah, they came with instruction manuals. I don't think I ever used them. I'm trying to think now of one of the instruction manuals that I did use. Like where I opened the book up and I was like, how do these buttons work? Right? You just go in the game and you start trying things out. And usually the game would have like some kind of introduction or like a tutorial, although tutorials kind of became more of a regular thing later. Like Resident Evil, I don't think they had a tutorial for it. It was just like, figure it out, idiot, you're playing. All right, I have a couple of spots. I need to touch up the green. And I have a couple spots. Let's see. He's coming together now. Let me see. I'm going to wipe that because it keeps being foggy. There we go. He's coming together. So I'm going to try and get in here and bring some brightness up onto this shoulder and this glove over here. And I want to get that belt more detailed, but I'm going to wait to put a wash over it. I'm going to use a little bit of Nolan oil on his armor and on his greaves, but I'm first going to use a small, tiny dry brush and stipple on some light gray. I have a small, tiny dry brush. All right, this is like one of my dead army painter brushes. It is going to become a dry brush. All right, we rinse that off. Let's see. You've reached these conclusions early in your life, huh? I got you beat, I guess. DLCs really aren't that different than Seasons of Magic cards when you get down to it. My area was Ice Age. No, that's fair. I think that is a fair comparison. I would prefer to play a game where I buy it, I pay $60, and boom, I have the game, and I'm playing it. Like I'm okay with download content, right? I'm okay with Kingdoms of Amalur releasing like, some expansion pack for their game. And the same thing with like Skyrim and Oblivion. And a lot of different games came out with expansion packs that are worthy of like 10 or 15 or maybe even $30. The Witcher is an excellent game. It's absolutely worth the price of admission. Plus the expansions are reasonably priced and I would pay for them. I don't think the new monetization strategy that video games uses is the same as DLC. I wouldn't even call it DLC because it doesn't act like DLC. It acts like gatekeeping to the game. Because when you buy Anthem is the example I'll use because, I played Anthem. When you buy Anthem and you go and you look at the game and you go, oh, this is nothing like the 2017 demo that they showed at E3. This game is absolutely different than the demo they showed. I wonder why that is, right? And then you go into the boring town, you walk around and you go talk to the boring vendor and they go, hey, would you like to spend $20 to buy this different mech suit that, that has different colors and stuff? And I go, oh, this is why your game sucks. You have a team of developers working on exclusive content when you haven't even finished the real content. To hell with you. Like EA, to hell with you and your game. You are bad. I'm not going to buy your games anymore. Right? That's not DLC. That's not the same thing as on a Magic expansion comes out and then another one comes out, 3 months later or something and it's a new Magic expansion. That's different. That's like a Magic expansion comes out and then 3 weeks later there's like an update that says like 50% of the cards you have don't work the same way as they used to because they're still building that expansion. That's a different, that's new modern video games are totally busted. And then the problem is look, I was a big video gamer. They're just not worth my time and energy anymore. I'd rather do this stuff. Even with this stuff being like video games, look, I'll just find a version that works, right? And if Games Workshop is going to be weird and going to rile against their community of creators, fine. I'll go find a different creator that isn't going to do that. I've been liking this gunmetal for metal, but I don't actually want to use a metal color. I want to use a dull gray. And I think I might use this green gray just to try it out, but I don't think it's actually the gray that I want. So I'm going to get, nope, that's polished silver. I want a light gray. There we go. Sky gray. That should do. You can see I'm really trying to try out these AK paints. I just want to put them on stuff even if it doesn't belong on there. when I get new paints, I like to test them out. I probably should pick some kind of model that I just want to paint with the AKs. That's actually not a bad idea. All right, I'm going to use this one and just dry brush it right onto his legs here to try and give him some edges. Let's see. Doesn't like remakes, prefers remasters. Star Wars, Star Trek, MacGyver, Magnum PI, Kung Fu, Miami Vice. Yeah, those, I'm pretty sure those all had some kind of remakes to them. See, tenacious resin is the best that I know of. People often mix it in 20% ratio with their regular resin, but it's not water washable. Clean it past to go to the recycling plant. Wow. Okay. I'm not a 3D expert, but I know there are answers out there. I appreciate that, Nate. Thank you. The Lots of Pathetic Movies was a thing in our day, too. Does anyone remember what the second best movie that came out alongside the first Star Wars movie? I don't remember what the big popular thing that would have come out around Star Wars. But I was a kid at the time, so if you're talking about the first Star Wars, actually, no, I was in 78 or 9. No, I was not born yet. I was born in 81. All right. Just want the edges to pop. This is a perfect little dry brush. That is coming out great. Yeah, this is what I got to do for dry brushes. Just whenever my army painter brushes go out, that little thing, that tiny little bristle, brings in a excellent dry brush. Let's see. Mainly that side being done. Let me get the other side now. Hey, Alex, how's it going? T2 doesn't stand up as well as I thought, but the CGI still holds up really well. Okay, so hold on. What doesn't stand up well about Terminator 2? Because in my mind, it is a rather perfect conclusion to like a sci-fi apocalypse story, right? And it's also got like that cool aspect of, you know, modern day stuff, you know, 1990s modern day. Lord of the Rings is a flawless series. I agree, Elevator GM. Thank you. Yeah, I like the color scheme as well. It's coming together well. There we go. I need to put a nice dull flattening gray on this bright blue hammer because it keeps standing out in my mind as being really unfinished. I definitely should have gotten my water palette out. My paints are drying up way too quickly. All right. I want just a little bit of like a polished silver look on these leggings. On the insides too. As corporate consumer entertainment becomes more soulless, I think thoughtful people will continue to gravitate towards tabletop games. You know, Argus, I think that's correct. I think real stuff, you know? Real stuff is the way to go. It gives meaning to the time spent. Someone on one of my streams, hold on, was it Mo? No, it was in a Discord. It was actually, yeah, it was Mo. He was talking about like why he doesn't like to spend a lot of time playing video games and why they kind of died to him. And it's because he can't really remember his time spent playing them. It was such a grim, you know, but accurate look at kind of the same feeling I have about playing video games. You know, I'm not saying I'm gonna wholly remember painting this dude. I don't know, I might, maybe. But some of it's like, there's physicality to it. You know, like I don't remember all my bike rides, but I remember some of them. I don't remember like any of the time that I play on Marvel Rivals. Like I don't think I can remember a single match, and I just played today. You know, it's like, I mean, it's okay. The thing, okay. I was talking with my friend Marshall in Thailand. I was talking with him about this, and I said, peak video gaming was Halo 1 on Xbox One, 16 players LAN party, and you're playing 8 versus 8 on Blood Gulch, all vehicles, right? That is peak gaming because you guys are pissed at each other and mad and having a great time, but between every match, you go out, you pause, you have a smoke break, you're chatting about the kills that happened, right? Like there's camaraderie in the frustration. It is not like Halo 2. Like when Halo 2 came out and then, Gears of War and everything after that, it was a totally different experience when you played online with people because it was caustic and you weren't sharing pizza with people. So like when a match went poorly, people took it really seriously. And it was just different. Like the distance and everything messed with stuff. So to me, that's peak video games. I don't think it's ever going to go back to that. And unless I want to go buy 4 Xboxes and land them up in my house and have 16 people come over to my place, I don't think I'm ever going to have peak gaming again. And since I think that was peak video games, and I've never experienced anything in video games as good as 16-person in-person Halo LAN parties. That was so good. Since I don't think it's going to get better than that, I might as well figure out how to make this as good, right? There's probably some way to make tabletop war games, tabletop, skirmish games. I had a really good time playing the Slay the Spire board game with my son and his friend Landon and Landon's dad. Like we just played a cooperative, cooperative Slay the Spire. It was so good. That was one of the best board game experiences I've ever had because they made that game it's so well made for cooperative play. It is leagues above Marvel Champions, which reminds me, I probably should make more videos about that game. I really love that card game. It's so well made. All right, I want to bring this leg up just a little bit more. I want to get like a light sunlight look in the legs. I'm not at the point where I could really do like reflections in metal. Like I'm not that good. And so I don't really even try. All right, let me see if there's anything. Hey, I'm going to get some more of this. I'm going to do a little bit of dusting on his armor, on the chest armor, just to bring the values of that up a little bit more too. Let's see. You don't remember the details, but you're glad you did it in a meaningful way, like eating a meal or going to church. Something like that. And yeah, that's actually, no, that's right, Argus. Right now, when I think back to time I spend playing a video game, there's like about 30 minutes of time that I can excuse myself playing the game because there's just so much other stuff I need to be doing, and so much other stuff that I want to be doing. Like I want to have, full painted minis for my games. And, I want people to come over to my house and play miniature games. And, I want people who are not really like mini game players to come play mini games, which means I need to, create stuff and be creative. So any time that I'm spending playing video games, like it feels like I've wasted my time. And that's me, right? Like I'm not saying that should be the same for other people. So if other people are having fun time playing video games, great, enjoy it. This is not like I don't know how people do it. It's just there are other things that I would rather be doing and other things that I feel are very important. And usually when I spend time playing video games, it's like to play with my son and to play with his friend. And, if it's not to play with my son or one of his friends, like I just don't know why I would be doing it. Because I'd really like to get a bunch of these miniature games up and going and having people play war games at my table. That would be awesome. Oh, that was way too much gray. Don't you hate it when you go to dry brush, but there's still wet paint on the brush? And you realize it after you've already dragged the brush across your model? I just did that. All right, hang on. Let me get some water on here. Bring that down. All right. Now it's like a weird gray wash. That's actually working out, though. Happy little accidents, right? Isn't that what Bob Ross says? I just made one of those happy little accidents. I got a little too much gray on my hammer, and now it's kind of turned into a gray wash over the blue. All right, I'm going to use a shade. What is it called? called shades, right? Yeah, I'm going to use one of the shades, a Nolan oil, to kind of bring that darker a little bit. Right now I'm going to start focusing on that other shoulder pauldron, which is buried under his gun. Try and get that shoulder pauldron back there. And then I'm going to work a little bit more on his belt and all the different accessories there. I'm probably going to try a few different colors for leathers on the pouches, because I don't want them to all just look the same. So, all right, let's get the brown. I was using Cygor brown for his shoulders earlier. Where did I do with Cygor brown? Snakebite, Cygor. Okay. All right, let's see. T2 aged poorly for the same reason Archie Bunker aged poorly. We've grown enough. It's kind of embarrassing to see how we were. Yep, that was the 80s. That was still acceptable back then. Okay, all right. Now, Nunya damn business. Okay, what the heck are you talking about? You're going to actually have to speak directly and clearly, because that sounds like some sort of strange propaganda. Are you saying that you think that in Terminator there's like racist stuff? Because you compared it with Archie Bunker, and usually people who complain about Archie Bunker complain about like that he's kind of racist, right? Okay, so, but what do you, okay, you're gonna have to like give me an exact scene or line or something that you watch and you're like, ooh, that's offensive or something, right? Like, otherwise it kind of seems like a virtue signal. All right, did you show off the room yet? Do you mean the war game room? I haven't actually. I've been planning on making a video there for like the last week, but I've been going through like a lot of weird, not transition stuff. So I've been trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing, because I've been trying to figure out what my goals are, and like, since my goals are, I want to play mini war games with my friends and family, like I used to play Halo with, friends when I was young, right? I want to have experiences with miniatures that equate to peak gaming experiences, right? They're social games, right? I want to get a few different people down at my war game table and play a game. And so, yeah, I know it's possible we could be playing like Warhammer 40K and have like a really kick-ass battle down there or whatever. But I know that there's a whole bunch of people who are friends of mine that I can't play that with, because Warhammer 40K is way too complex for them. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to find war games that would also work for them, which is why I was going towards Necromunda. And so this whole last week, I've been building terrain for Necromunda. First, I was building the actual, like, literal Necromunda stuff, which I think is really good quality. I like the modularity of it. I think it's great sci-fi terrain for building up little hive cities. I do think it's expensive. I think it's expensive for what you get, but there is quality to it. Anyways, I was building that up. But I realized all that terrain I was building up, I was still going to need to prime and paint before it was ready to go. And in my mind, I was like, I kind of want to get to playing games pretty soon. And, I think that terrain is one of the biggest things that draw people to a war game. Like if you have really good terrain out there and it looks immersive and people are going like, oh, look at all the little rocks and trees and stuff. I want to move my guy over there, right? I think that really draws people into the game. And you can obviously play a game with like white terrain. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's a definite improvement to have the terrain look quality. So I wanted to get terrain that was quickly fieldable onto the table so we could start playing Necromunda games. So I transitioned over to finishing up the Tinker Turf terrain that I was building. And the Tinker Turf terrain I actually have down on the table downstairs. I'll go down there and show off the war game table in a minute, and you can see that stuff. That terrain is excellent. It's perfect for like sci-fi games and sci-fi miniature stuff. So I started finishing that stuff because it's already all painted, and it's really good quality, and it's also modular. I love modular terrain. But 2 days ago, no, was it yesterday? I think it was Wednesday. I woke up and that guy Janovich, I don't remember his name, but I posted his video where he was like, farewell to Warhammer, right? And it was just such a weird video to me because he was like a big channel, right? And this is a big channel that was like, Games Workshop has come after me for some of the fan content that I've made. They've been, and they've also done it with other channels as well. They've been pursuing legal action against their community. And that was a really weird thing to kind of like wake up to as I'm getting ready to kind of move into like painting a bunch of Necromunda, and I got like a bunch of starter boxes for Necromunda because I think Necromunda is the game that my friend Steven and his son Landon and my son and a few other people would be able to play. Like, we'd be able to play this game. I think it's an easy enough war game that, you know, non-war gamers could start playing it. And anyways, yeah, so it was a bummer to see this video from Janovich. I know I'm saying his name wrong, whatever. See this video from him because he's like 200,000 subscribers, deep, 17-year Warhammer fan who's going, Games Workshop just came after my channel, right? And I'm here going like, dude, I got like 2,700 subscribers. Most of the people who follow my channel are like watching tabletop RPG stuff or like hate watching me or something. I'm not even like popular in this thing. And I'm thinking about jumping into Games Workshop, jumping into Warhammer for content creation, right? Like, I'm thinking about starting to create content about Warhammer for multiple reasons. And here I'm looking at this and going like, that's weird, right? It's weird to see Games Workshop turn on its creator base for reasons, right? And I know I have videos that are like anti-woke, right? Because I don't think woke stuff is good. I think it's bad to throw strange political messaging aimed at children into your content, right? And I'm not even afraid to say it. Like, I'm not worried about saying stuff about that. I know that there's going to be companies that just right off the bat aren't interested in me. Fine, I get it. Games Workshop probably wouldn't be interested in me. But it would be a real bummer if they all of a sudden started putting legal action against me for using their stuff because I'm also like anti-woke and stuff. And I don't like weird, the weird ideologies coming in. So for all of that, I've been thinking about the last 2 days, and I'm going, I have a good friend of mine who's making a really kick-ass tabletop RPG. It is a awesome tabletop RPG. It is my forever game. It is the best tabletop RPG I've ever played. We have played 13 or so sessions in it, and my players are so invested in their characters in a way that they never were in Shadow Dark or Dragonbane or Dungeons and Dragons or any of the other games we played. They are so invested. And I'm going like, his game is very adjacent to a war game on its combat side. It could easily be adapted. All I got to do is start building fantasy terrain. But the problem is I'm building sci-fi terrain, right? Like, I'm building this stuff, right? I'm building tanks and Warhammer things. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, all this Necromunda stuff is still useful to me. It's useful to me if I want to play Necromunda in the next couple months or years. And it's also useful if I hate Games Workshop in the next few months or years and I just want to play one-page rules gang wars, right? It's all very useful and I can use that. So I'm just going to put that stuff aside right now. Initially I was bummed because I actually bought a bunch of this stuff and I was like, should I start sending it back? Because I could send it back. I haven't like started building a bunch of it. I could start taking it back to the game store and I could return it to Amazon. And I was like, no, I actually like the models. I'm interested in building and having these models and this terrain. Someday I will want to play future sci-fi. But right now, this year, this summer, my good friend Rodney is going to be releasing his game in August, right? Not releasing, but he's going to be putting in a Kickstarter, right? So I want it to be successful. Like, I wholeheartedly want his game to succeed. Why would I be doing sci-fi stuff? His game is fantasy. If I want to be a good supportive friend, the best thing I could do is lean in and make awesome tabletop skirmish game videos about his game, right? That's the best thing I could do because people love looking at like really bitchin' terrain and seeing war games in them. And the stuff I'm going to be trying to create is really interesting, like boats with cities built up on top of them. That's weird, right? And I want to build a table that when you see it, you're like, man, I'd want to play there. So anyways, all of that to say, my war game table is kind of in a state of flux. I'm going to pause on this guy because I've already been going like an hour and 40 minutes, and I think we're going to watch some more Walking Dead tonight. We just started Walking Dead last night. Watched the first episode. I was interested in watching something like an episodic TV show because it was nice when we were watching Daredevil. Bishop, like, we could just watch like an hour of something and kind of go to bed or whatever. Bishop was getting a kick out of it, but I'm not interested in watching Daredevil Born Again or whatever. And so, like, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to continue getting into it. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Is Riker in bed already?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and keep it down. Okay. I'm going to try and keep it down because Riker's already asleep or going to sleep. But, all right, I'll turn on some lights down here. This is the mess that I've been I've been making messes. Let me see. Lights on. There we go. Okay. All right. So this is the Tinker Turf terrain that I've been putting together. You know, it's modular. So it's a bunch of these like pieces. It's hard cardboard, but it's real sturdy once you get it all glued together. You know, and you get these pieces and you make like little decks and plates and boxes and crates and stuff. And I love this stuff, right? It's cool when you get these things out there and you can start connecting the ladders and the catwalks and stuff. Anyways, I like the sci-fi look of it. And for Necromunda, it was probably going to be like the fastest terrain I could get together. All right, so I'm going to turn on all the lights in here so you can see it. First, I'll turn on Lego Town lights. I managed to get this one wired up under the table, although I can't find the switch. All right, what'd I do with the switch? There it is. All right. So this one's got the lights going under the table and over the table so you can see stuff down there. It also has a nice bounce refraction there. This one I haven't gotten the lights under the table yet because I thought I was still going to be changing some of the electrical workings. But so here's the kill team side of the table. I'm just going to leave Volkus up here. And my goal is to actually just get some pretty regular games with my son. As soon as he finishes painting any kill team, we can start playing here. He's saying he wants to wait until the Tyranid team comes out, which I'm like, okay, that's like a week from now or something. That shouldn't be too bad. So I think a game store nearby has a box for him, so we should be able to pick that up next week or whenever, and then he'll paint them, and then he'll have a team. I was trying to make a giant Necromunda board and figure out like exactly how the spacing works. This is a bunch of the modular Necromunda stuff. It's pretty quality. I like the way it all kind of hooks in together, and you get like these locking pieces, and you can glue them in little sections if you want to make like little permanent structures. You can do that. I probably would have settled on a few sections being like kind of chunked together so that they're easy to move. But as I was putting them together, I was like, you know what? I kind of just want games going, so I should finish these Tinker Turf stuff. And then the thing with Janovich's channel happened like yesterday, and now I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get a water board here. Like it's going to be all ocean, maybe like a little bit of beach. I'm looking for a mat about this size that's like oceanic. And I want like a big oceanic like mat here. And then I found TT Combat has some amazing boats. They're like this kind of like MDF terrain, but they're boats. So my plan is to pick up a few of those boats. And they also, on TT Combat, have a bunch of these like little modular stacking buildings. And so I'm going to take the boats and build the modular stacking buildings up into the boats with catwalks and planks. And what I'm going to make is a modular boat city where there's like upper riggings and lower riggings combined with some like Venetian catwalks and buildings between them. So it's going to be like an oceanic boat hive city that comes from the lore of my friend's game. So this is actually like a place in his game. I actually don't remember the name of it, but the people who live there are called the Kaino. And they like have these boat cities, and they're kind of awesome. And that was the thing, is like I was thinking about it. I'm like, what's the one thing that's really cool that I like about Necromunda? It's all the verticality, right? Like the verticality of the hive city is just, it's so cool to have like, you know, the catwalks going over stuff. Like this is the thing that I really like in when you start getting into like these war games. I like having these moments where you can get like advantage over someone on a lower level, and you have like these opportunities to bring your character into like an elevated position, you know, and then like you can, okay, then you're going to drop down and hide somewhere. Like just all that stuff is very fun. Having just a bunch of like buildings to run around, it's okay. But the fact that my friend has designed a lore area of the game where there's a fantasy hive city, like suddenly I was like totally encouraged and excited to build fantasy terrain, because generally I'm just kind of like, I like sci-fi stuff, right? So anyways, I'm way behind here. Yeah, so this is the room. Thanks for asking, Alex. See, the potential for tabletop games as a social ritual is vastly untapped in Northern America. Pay to play along with junk mobile games have swamped the markets as far as people's games and entertainment. No, you're totally right. And it's sad. Like I'll be hanging out with my son and his friends, and we're like trying to play like, you know, Marvel Rivals or something. And between all the matches, between every match, everyone just gets on their phone, right? I usually try and keep my phone just like in my pocket. I don't want to bring it out. But then I'll see like my son and his friend, and they're just like, they're on their phone, and like, we're not talking about the previous match. We're not, you know, we're just kind of playing a single player game on the same server together. It's weird. It's yeah. So it feels very disconnected. See, my number one thing is the money. Rules are a thing, but until Games Workshop makes their games affordable, it's hard. You know, and that's okay. That's the other thing, right? I realize that. Like I'm aware of the fact that I have some expendable income that I can spend testing stuff out and trying things out. And some of that is like, okay, on occasion I get like some money from YouTube and I just go throw it back into games, right? But you know, like on occasion I have extra income that I can pick up Necromunda Train to test it out, see what it is. And for me, I consider that like kind of like a work expenditure. Like I'm trying to learn about these games and stuff. And so some of that is like, all right, I need to learn how to paint, you know, miniatures and stuff. And I need to learn how to, you know, do like model work and whatever. But then some of it is I need to pick up a product to see what it's like, because the company's not going to send it to me. You know, and on occasion I send out emails and I'm like, hey, can I see this product? And just no one responds. So I get it, right? And so that was one of the thoughts I had too, was like, I'm about to recommend Necromunda to people. And I know that Necromunda is expensive, right? Like the models, like you want 10 of these guys, it's like $50. And then you're going to need to buy some more, right? You want to get the full team, it's probably like $150 for a full team with like their mechs or their vehicles or whatever. Games Workshop can be very expensive. And, you know, there's a part of it where I'm like, look, that is a bar for entry. And I could make arguments that like, yeah, but video games are expensive, but lots of other things are expensive. In reality, like it's already hard work to try and get to the table to play a game with your kid. And you know, basically I'm going to be telling parents like, so what you got to do is you got to get all this stuff and build it and paint it and put it together, you know, like, which is a really big expenditure of time. And so the thought I had was I probably want to try and find a more reasonably priced venture. And I think the MDF train is pretty reasonably priced. And it's like not crazy to put together. Like I'm not good at woodworking and crafting. And like, yeah, I figured out, I built these, right? These are super easy to build. You know, I've got like little clamps and stuff, and I'll probably make some videos like showing how to build them, right? It's like, it's super modular. It opens up, you know, it's got like a couple different sections that come off so you can see inside. Anyways, this is MDF terrain. It works great. I might paint the boats that I'm getting. I might not. I'm not sure. That brown look is okay to me, but it doesn't feel real. And I think I want it to have like a real feel. So my thought is I actually might get wood stain for them and try and wood stain them and paint the areas that aren't wooden if there's like metal riggings or that type of thing. So I get your complaint about Games Workshop pricing. And that's one of the things I'm trying to consider when I'm making miniatures and models is like, if I'm going to tell parents like, hey, you ought to try and play this miniature game with your kids. Oh, by the way, it's going to cost you $700 to even start. Like that sucks. So it needs to be somewhat affordable or something, you know, it needs to have like a granular price. I don't know. I get your point. That's fair. Hard to get friends and family. No, you're totally right. It is. And I think the easier a war game is to introduce new players to, and the easier it is for them to learn it, like so they can come over to your house and learn it, the more likely they're going to want to invest in it themselves. And I think some of the reason I'm leaning more into my friend's fantasy game is because for now it's totally miniature agnostic, right? I can pick up Dungeons and Lasers miniatures that are very reasonably priced. I can pick up stuff on Etsy that's unreasonably priced, and I can combine the two and show people the difference between them, right? Like, here's what I got from Etsy, and here's what I got from Dungeons and Lasers. You know, you decide what you like more. So I think that to me, that's a big selling point on me as a channel creator investing time and energy into building something and working on something. Because at the end of it, I do want to have something where I'm like, yeah, I actually would recommend this to like my sister or my friends, right? I don't want to sell something to someone that I wouldn't want myself to be invested in. So, man, bro, just got into 40K. I have a 3,500 point army, and it ain't even played a game. I played a lot of kill teams, so I figured 40K should come quick to me with rules and shit. Okay, so I've pretty much done the same thing. I've played kill team, and I really like kill team. The Warhammer 40K rules are very similar to kill team, aside from the fact that you go all your guys first, and then your opponent goes all their guys. That's different. There's also some other differences, like more defenses and stuff. I've seen enough of the plays, like the actual plays, to go, okay, I have a feel for how this works. I'm into it. I'm into like the whole sci-fi, the tanks and miniatures. This isn't Games Workshop, but just as an example, I'm interested in that. It's for me, it's just I'm just putting it on hold for now. So I still have my Imperial Army. I'm super into my Imperial Army. I love their look. I want to finish building and painting them. But for the moment, I'm putting them on the back burner while I build a bunch of kick-ass fantasy terrain to make an awesome, like, pirate-looking city. Like an not abandoned, but like a pirate boat city. And I'm really excited about it. So it's probably like the first time I've been super excited about a project in a little while. And that's also the reason why I haven't gotten a lot of videos out recently. Like this project of making the war game table, like this took me the better part of a week. Because first I had to take apart this Lego town and not destroy it. Like doing all this, like getting all these buildings to go here, and then taking all the roads and putting them up in Riker's room. Like that took a long time doing that. And like trying to figure out what I'm doing with stuff, I even had the thought that maybe I would make a war game table with Legos here. My son wasn't keen on the idea. I wasn't really keen on the idea. I was just like, it would be it would be something to do, right? I could just get the buildings out there. The thing is, I actually like this. I like making this stuff. I like making diorama crap and trying to make it look nice. Like this. Okay, this one is one of my favorite pieces of this terrain set. I just love the way the gold pops out from the gray and the leaves on the top. It's just, I don't know. It's really fun trying to make these things look nice. And Lego is kind of like a finished thing already. I've done Lego, and I'm not saying like I've mastered Lego, but I've done Lego to the degree that I'm kind of like, I'm ready to move on to other arts and crafts. See, Holden, do you play Magic? Yep. Okay. I'm lucky I play with two brothers, never even been to play at a local shop. I just had my first game at a local game store last week. I had two games. I played 2 weeks ago, and then I played last week. I got my butt kicked both times. I played the Deathcore Krieg the first time I played, and I just got whooped. I wasn't really trying. I was kind of trying to learn the rules. But then the second time I was actually trying to win, and the guy I was playing against was he didn't understand that the mandrakes were supposed to teleport across the map. So we ended up spending like 30 or 40 minutes talking about it. And initially I was just like, all right, fine. I'm just going to play them not being able to teleport across the map. Like, I don't care that much. But then another dude overheard us talking about it and was like, oh, no, they're supposed to be able to teleport across the map. So then we were like 30 or 40 minutes on Reddit and looking at rules and codex and they finally going, oh, wow, they can just teleport across the map. Crazy. So it was a slower game. It's hard to explain. It's not much racist or a virtue signal. It's more, I can't believe we thought that was how to be cool. If you're talking about John Connor, I don't know if John Connor was ever cool, right? Like, he's kind of this douchebag kid with like, I got a credit card, and like he's a little robber. You know, he's kind of a snot-nosed crap. But I mean, if you're talking about Sarah Connor, I don't know if I ever thought she was cool either. She always seemed a little bit pissy and like irritable, but the film itself is cool. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts more about this. You're gonna have to. We're gonna watch it sometime soon, and so then I will have a more fresh take on it. All right, see, you a Warhammer geek like me? You know, I've been becoming a Warhammer geek like you. Like, I mean, I'm getting into it, and you know, I'm really enjoying trying to learn how to build and paint the models and miniatures. Like, this is probably the first one that I'm actually going to start painting. What's that called? Where you build them and paint them as you're like, you don't build it all the way. I don't know. Building it in steps, painting it in steps. So I'm trying to get better at doing this just because I actually enjoy it, right? Like, I actually like the hobby side of it. I probably do more painting and building than I do playing, which, you know, that says something, I guess. Anyways, yes. I'm also now trying to invest some time and energy into a particular fantasy game, though. By the way, if any of you are interested, man, I don't have a link in this description. If any of you are interested in checking out the game that I'm talking about, the Divine Comedy, there's a Discord up for it right now. I think you can search it. Otherwise, maybe Elevator GM, if you can put a link in the chat here in case anyone wants to take a look at the Discord or go over there. I think it's a very cool project, and it's neat to see that the community is growing so quickly. So I'm happy about that. Let's see. Have you played Axis and Allies? I really enjoy that one. Not really a war game, but it's very fun. So I saw Axis and Allies at a game convention in February. It was a weird version of Axis and Allies where a dude built like an entire table. Like, it was a big table, bigger than this table, of like the entire world. And they had like little miniatures for the boats and like miniatures for airplanes. And he said it was a game that he like built on top of Axis and Allies. That's the only exposure I've had to Axis and Allies. One dude had a modded version of Axis and Allies that like the board alone, I guess, cost $2,000 or something. Like, it was super luxury Axis and Allies. I don't know if it's like the same thing though. He just said the game was similar to Axis and Allies. And so I don't even know what his game was called, but it was crazy in depth. So I've not played it though. It looked like Big Kid Risk. I don't know. Is that accurate? Yeah. Bro, The Expanse is right there. Okay, this was a while ago. I'm assuming you're talking about sci-fi stuff because I'm a big sci-fi nerd. See, if you're a war gamer, there's models for Axis. Okay. Kill team is smaller than I thought. That's a great kill team on the train. Yeah. I like the size of kill team. It means the games kind of go a little snappy. They're pretty fast. Janovich, thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to try and catch up here. Excellent. Thank you, Elevator GM, for connecting that. Subassembly. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Alex, yes, subassembly. I figured, you know, this car in particular was one of the most like once I started putting it together, I was like, there's no way for me to paint the inside. I don't even think spray paint would go in there with how it's built. I'm like, I don't think I can paint this car wholly by building it first. So it's going to be my first attempt at it. I almost tried with a couple Space Marines to do this subassembly, and I was like, I just don't care if I don't get underneath the backpack in that one little like nook there. I can just stipple in there. It'll be fine. Let's see. GW has never gone after model painters, just the lore guys that compete with Black Library's audiobooks. They're still D-bags, but you're safe from them. No, you're probably right. I probably am safe from Games Workshop. It's just the moment they recognize that I don't have their same politics, like, look, there could be a reason that they go against me. If nothing else, it would just be something like it's going to be hard to find support, like from them especially. But beyond that, I'm still interested in Warhammer. Like, I'm not so mad at GW for this thing with Janovich that I'm done with Games Workshop. As I mentioned, like, I'm still gonna pick up the Kill Team 2-player pack that comes out later this month because my son wants the Tyranids and I kind of want the Adeptus Mechanicus. I'm still interested in playing Kill Team. But right now, I just want to focus my efforts to be supportive to my friend. I want to build a really kick-ass pirate fantasy town to play a war game in the Divine Comedy setting, because I think it's going to also help me to churn out interesting stories. So yeah, that's part of the reason. Part of the reason is being annoyed at Games Workshop. I'm still got tons of Necromunda stuff I'm building and be putting together. Right now, I'm just taking a pause through the summer to try and make a really cool fantasy town. All right, I realize I've rambled on for quite a while now. I appreciate all you hanging out and chatting with me. Yeah, I really do appreciate it. You guys make Thursdays so easy. So thanks for asking questions and just chilling with me. I always get nervous before I'm about to start streaming because what if no one shows up? You know how it is. I don't know if you ever streamed and you just been there for nobody. So appreciate it. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Let's see. Did you guys get the Port Haven kits from the Dungeons and Lasers? Port Haven kits. You're going to have to send a link to me on that one. So, that's the one that, I think I saw that one. It was coming out. I hadn't, so the models weren't available on their store yet, but I saw that one. There were some pretty cool looking pirate characters on there. One of the ones that really stood out to me was the, it's DEU something, like the city of Daynunes or something. It had these really cool characters that have like flaming hands and stuff. They look like pyromancers. So there was a few that looked really cool. And since their minis are always like $2 a piece, they're always like pretty reasonably priced. It's something where I can get it and I don't mind like kit bashing it. Sometimes I feel really bad kit bashing a model that I know like costs $4 or $5, especially if I might mess it up. So, all right. Anyways, yeah, thank you for reminding me that one. That's something I want to take a look at again. I think Sarah Connor was meant to be a character with PTSD. There are a lot of interesting YouTube videos about her character. She was very deliberately designed. No, that makes sense. I know. I think she actually plays PTSD very well, especially in that scene with like Miles Dyson, where she's like about ready to shoot him, and then she's kind of like on the other edge of it, going like, I almost killed that guy. Yeah, no, she does a good job playing the character. Very good stream, super fun. Thank you so much. Let's see, Geekly Digest. I'm still waiting on my terrain from their last game found. Okay. Let's see, TSL Frontman. That's one of the things I couldn't describe. PSD works. Okay. Let's see, kind of how Archie Bunker was in the 1970s thought racists work. All right, maybe that was why you made the comparison for it. That makes sense. All right, God bless you all. Have a good night. I will get back on track with making some videos. Someone a little while ago asked me for like just a Kill Team video, so I'll just go through and showcase the Kill Team stuff that I've been putting together and that I've collected along with the board or whatever. I'll also probably do a video rundown of what I plan on doing. And as soon as I start getting some of the MDF stuff to make the boats, I'll do some like time lapses and crap. Now that I have a clear idea of what I'm trying to do for the next month or two to try and make Rodney's game be successful, it gives me like a really clear focus point. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stick with this now because I more clearly know what I want. So, anyways, thank you. God bless you. Have a good night. One more question. Reading during streams. Oh, thank you for bringing it up. So, yeah, I will. So I read through all the stories that you sent me. I think I have a couple questions for you. But otherwise, yeah, I have no problem reading. I think it was like the 5 stories plus the epilogue. What I'd probably do is break it down into like 5 different streams. And what I would do is focus on like painting 1 or 2 specific characters during those streams. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks for bringing it up, Alex. If you haven't already, thank you, Elevator GM. Appreciate that. God bless you. Have a good night. I will get back to making videos soon. All right. Bye-bye.